Go Figure TV. Revolutionary salute. Revolutionary salute. Like, share, subscribe. Welcome to the House of Revolution. You know I'm your humble host, the Yamin of Revolution. We got him. Justice for Nolan Wells. Lies exposed. But before we get into that, y'all be sure to wipe y'all feet. That means hit the like button. You in the House of Revolution. Like, share, subscribe, support the platform, y'all.
Nolan Wells' dad was offered by the football coach to observe the land on Horn Island. They went out there. Why in the hell didn't they see Nolan Wells? But when the Cajun Navy go out there, all of a sudden, y'all see Nolan Wells. Do I need to mention that these people in the Cajun Navy are tight-knit and probably know the parents of the fake-ass friends that was with Nolan Wells? Watch this. Check this out, y'all.
Why would they not be able to make a visual ID?
I'm assuming because he was outside and in the elements for a day or so. It's hot, it's July, it's very warm weather. However, in most cases where I have seen drownings where the person is underwater for a period of time, their body is pretty well preserved, unless we're talking about like multiple days, weeks that this person is underwater. Usually the water is cooler temperature, and if that person is face down in the water or completely submerged, their body is pretty well preserved until they surface. Usually a body after a couple of days surfaces. So I'm really surprised that he was on the shore. I've never personally investigated a drowning case where a person just ends up on the shore, especially if there's not a strong current or waves. Usually in bodies of water, the person will stay in pretty much the location where they go underwater if it's witnessed. They don't usually move around much after they have submerged or gone underwater. So to me, it's very concerning that he was on the shore, or that his body surfaced that quickly. There should be a death investigation report from a death investigator who has experience looking at bodies and has experience examining these type of things to show exactly what his condition was when he was found. And if the body is decomposed more than what you would normally expect in a drowning case, that should be a big red flag. That's something that you definitely need to look into further.
You find it odd that he was quasi on the shore. You also stated that location where the body is found is typically where they went under. You also said that the body must have been too decomposed to make a facial ID. I did not hear an explanation as to why fingerprint ID was impossible.
Fingerprint identification would be impossible if the hands were dried out to an extent where they can't be fingerprinted. Sometimes people that are underwater, or if the hands are underwater, the skin, just like if you're in the bathtub for a prolonged period of time, the skin ends up looking the same way. It just gets kind of wrinkled, and it's very hard to get a usable or workable fingerprint in those scenarios. So one scenario would be the body is too decomposed to get a fingerprint or a visual identification. And then the alternate scenario is the body or the hands were exposed to the water too long to where they just are not able to get a good workable print. So those are the different possibilities. But again, his position at the edge of the bank or partially in the water, that's really concerning because there's tons of people around that area. If he was in that position or on the shore decomposing for a day or so, why did nobody see him? Those would be my type of questions that I would ask if I were a death investigator responding to this scene.
Jeff, I'm looking right now at the photo of his body, and it's about, the beach is flat, and I would say it's about 3 to 4 feet from where there's nothing but sand, no water. It looks like it's at just as the water is starting, like you could walk in it very easily and your ankles may not even get wet. He's not out in the water at all. He's on the beach and on wet sand. That's the way to put it. It's wet sand. He's not out in the water, Jeff Gentry. What does that mean, if anything?
That's really abnormal. I would have a ton of questions in that case. I would wonder, if there's no waves, no strong current, why is that body up on a shore? How did it get there?
Because somebody probably placed him there. That's why it's abnormal for the body to be on the sand and not in the water.
Just like when we're looking at blood evidence or other forms of evidence, if something is in a certain position within a scene, you have to question how it got there. I have investigated a lot of deaths, bodies in canals, rivers, lakes, large bodies of water, never really near the ocean, to where you would expect somebody to wash up to shore. But in these cases, even though there's strong current, waves, large bodies of water, I've never really seen bodies up on a shore, especially up out of the water enough to where they could decompose significantly to where they can't be identified or can't be fingerprinted. So that would be a very big question that I would have in this case, is with the absence of waves, with the absence of a strong current, how in the world did this 19-year-old man end up on shore out of the water?
Real questions, real details from a death investigator, not some damn body from the Cajun Navy. He don't have a dog in a fight, but somebody from the Cajun Navy who potentially probably know every damn body in Ocean Springs. He's always going to say something about Nolan Wells drowning.
You disagree with Jeff's characteristic. Explain.
Wind, wave, tides, currents. If you look, there's also there's some pictures, some aerial pictures that show driftwood way on the beach. Those four things are what impacted, as I appreciate, where Nolan ultimately ended up. If you look in one of those pictures, ma'am, a wave is about to come right over and crest right near where the body's at. So that shows that there is some wave actions and some currents. The winds, the waves, the tides, the currents have a huge impact on, anything that's put into that water.
Shut your ass up. I don't trust you, your beard, or your mustache. You right along with John Ledbetter and the rest of them. I don't care who crib you went to. I don't care who parents you spoke to. If you're saying Nolan Wells drowned, you're the op. Fuck out of here.
Straight to a special guest, Josh Gill with the Cajun Navy, who, as you know, searched for Nolan's body. Josh, thank you for being with us. The
Morning, ma'am.
day unfolded when Nolan's body was found very bizarrely. You were there. I'm going to get to your trip to the coroner's office along with the family, but I want you to start at the beginning. What happened at the beginning of that day? We believe that Nolan likely died on July the 4th. Let's start with the day that Nolan's body was found and that you ended up at the coroner's office. Start at the beginning.
So early that morning, I deployed some resources. I deployed an aircraft, fixed-wing aircraft that wheels up at 0635, as you can see right there from the photographs. I was on my way to the Lake Mars boat launch. That's where the Tactical Operations Center was set up. And I received a phone call. Received that phone call from the Sheriff's Department that a body had been found. Didn't say who it was. I was probably 15 minutes out from the location. I then received a phone call within minutes after the conversation from the sheriff's office from Nolan's mother, Christine. And she was frantic. Again, that mother's intuition, she knew what was going on. So I'm meeting at the boat launch. I was there about 15 minutes ahead of time. Had
Hold on
conversations
just
with
one
the
moment.
sheriff.
Hold on. For those of you just joining us,
Yep.
Josh Gill is with us. He is the United Cajun Navy Incident Commander in the search for Nolan Wells. You stated that you received a phone call from Nolan's mother, Christine. You said she was frantic. What was she saying?
Nancy Grace, why do you have him on your show talking about Nolan Wells' mom's feelings? Why do you have this guy on here telling us some shit we already know?
So again, I'm going to paraphrase. She said that they had found him, that they had found a body. My biggest concern at that exact moment was to make sure that she was safe, that she had, a safe way to get there, because it was the beginning of what's more than likely to be the worst day of her life. Again, so continuing
okay, hold on. Josh, you got me drinking from the fire hydrant here. Every word you're saying sparks 100 questions. So
Sure.
Nolan Wells' mother calls you. Okay. Where was she when she called?
She was en route to the boat launch as well. We were meeting there for the search.
Okay. Had she been told that a body had been found?
Yeah, when she called me, so we had earlier communication, but via text, when she called me, she told me that a body had been found. She had been notified by the sheriff's department.
Oh, gosh. No wonder she was frantic. So she calls you. She's just been told by the sheriff a body has been found. She calls you. You're going to the boat launch. What boat launch? Where?
That's the Lake Mars boat launch.
So you agreed with her. Did she ask you to meet at the boat launch?
Oh, she knew I was going to that boat launch, and she actually asked me early that morning, where we were going to meet. And I told her, here's the best place. Here's where the operation is beginning.
Okay.
It was a secured location by the sheriff's department. So, that's where they were running their operation on. And that's a common practice.
Question. Do you know why Nolan's mother wanted you to go with her to Horn Island?
What how is this even relevant? Look, man, I'm telling you, that white man Christ Caesar Borgia shit. They're trying to paint this guy as a savior. He was the one that was cuddled up with Nolan Wells' mom. He's passionate, and he came out there and rescued everybody. Bullshit. Get to the real details of what's going on, which is Nolan Wells was surrounded by a lot of people, and his body was found on the sand after his father already walked Horn Island. Stop trying to feed us this emotional ass white man Jesus bullshit.
So we had communication. She called me, literally called me. We had a voice conversation that Sunday morning, about 7:30. She had called and asked for some assistance. After that phone call, I asked to memorialize all of our conversations so I could go back and look at information. And that's not uncommon for families to call us and ask us. Find my son. There it is.
So she asked you to help find her son, that assistance. Okay, got it. Okay, go ahead.
Yes. Yeah, so she asked for that assistance, find my son, find Nolan. Started gathering information on who he is, who he was with, where he was. She made it very clear that he was with some friends, that they had been on Horn Island. So then I start launching resources immediately. And then after I launched the resources,
hold on. Josh, what specifically did she say about him going to Horn Island with friends, if you can recall?
So she said that he went to Horn Island with friends. It's July 4th, and Horn Island's a location that's well known and well visited by people partying and hanging out for July 4th. It's a huge boating community, and that was the location where boats congregate and enjoy the 4th.
That wasn't the damn question. That wasn't what she asked you. She asked you.
What specifically did she say about him going to Horn Island with friends?
She didn't ask you what date it was. We know it was the 4th of July. We know people like going out there. She didn't ask you that. You doing the same shit that Warren be doing. When somebody asks your ass a question, you explaining some bullshit.
Okay, so she says he went to Horn Island on the 4th with friends. Got it. Okay. So you meet at the boat ramp. And when you first saw her, what was her demeanor?
So she came to me. She gets out of the vehicle, comes to me, gives me a big hug. Again, it's a mother who, her intuition is that her body was just found. So obviously sad.
According to what we learned, the moment she gets out of the vehicle, she runs straight to you and is hyperventilating.
Absolutely. She came straight to me.
What happened?
20 people. She gives me a big hug and starts crying. And look, I'm a softie. I started crying with her. And we literally sat in the parking lot on the ground in the gravel for probably 15 minutes. And we had some pretty deep discussions. She cried. I cried with her, and her husband was there as well. And I want to say this, that he's a very stoic individual, and he stood there with his hand on both of our shoulders and was a part of everything.
What was the dad saying, if anything?
You know, he was, again, he was really quiet. He was a quiet gentleman, but his physical presence afforded her, made her feel safe. And I will say that, you know, he stood there with us, you know, on the ground. He's there. And his presence said a lot. And it meant a lot to his wife, to Miss Christine. And again, it's a tough time for him as well.
So she's crying. You state that she knows deep inside that that body is her boy, her son. You start crying. Did you remain standing in the parking lot, or did you sit down?
No, ma'am. Like I said, when she first came to me, she gave me a big hug, and I wrapped my arms around her, and we sat down.
I can't hear no more of this shit. Let's talk about them damn friends. I'm starting not to trust a whole lot of people. And what do y'all think the chances is that this guy knows the people and the family of the fake ass friends of Nolan Wells? It's just something I don't trust about these Cajun Navy guys. Why in the hell they are trying to keep the conversation that Nolan Wells drowned? Why are they still talking about surface level shit? We understand the mother was crying. We understand that you hugged her and you was crying right along with her. When are we going to start focusing on some details? We already know the Cajun Navy found him. Why aren't y'all speaking about who Nolan Wells was seen with or who he came to the island with? Because y'all probably cool with these people. Y'all probably know these people for years. You miss me with that you was crying with her shit. You miss me with that you're a softie shit. I don't trust your beard or your mustache. And for you to sit up there and disagree with the guy that's letting you know he's a death expert, he's giving you the details. For you to say that you disagree with somebody that's giving you details and your unwillingness to expound on details and try to keep the conversation surface level, I'm starting not to trust a lot of people. And I'm going to keep it 100 with y'all. Nancy Grace might be on the case, but if you keep talking about surface level shit, I'm going to start side-eyeing you. Because why in the hell ain't nobody talking about these friends like Jay Megan is? You see how much he's talking about the coordinates and the GPS and who was on what boat? That's the shit that we need to be talking about. And we ain't got to accuse nobody of being guilty just to talk about the details of something. But if you keep things surface level, it makes me believe you're trying to help hide something. Here it is. It's a whole damn 2 months later. And you're still talking about, yeah, we found his body and the mother was crying. We know that shit already. Let's talk about y'all connections out there. Let's talk about who was on these damn boats and why y'all ain't got nobody in that damn interrogation room. I'm not going for this Mr. Nice Guy shit. Seriously. And the reason why Elmo was probably quiet around your ass is because he probably was thinking something else, trying to hold himself together just for his wife and to keep the peace. But I want y'all to listen to something. Anytime something is mentioned about a foul play or blunt force trauma or anything, I want y'all to hear how dismissive he is. Check this out.
She asked about the condition, and he went into there were no immediate signs of foul play. Okay. To me, again, my opinion in hearing this is, you know, no signs of blunt force trauma or any, I don't know what the word I'm looking for is, any, signs of foul play. Look, we would consider that.
Well, I guess they hadn't seen that big red mark on the back of his occipital yet, underneath the skin. And I take it at this juncture, Josh, his throat had not been dissected to look for potential subcutaneous bruising. So
Sure.
You're telling me that from a cursory look at Nolan Wells's body, there was no sign of foul play, such as a stab wound or a bullet wound or bruises, deep gouges on the head. That, in my experience, having tried so many homicide cases, I cannot count them, is what you get from a cursory look at a body. Would you agree?
So, correct. I'm not a medical examiner nor a coroner. I have gathered information and heard multiple people speak on that, especially about the red spot, right? We'll quote unquote call it the red spot. And as I appreciate that may be pooling or whatever, it could possibly be cellular decomposition. Again, I'm not a medical examiner or a coroner, but I do know what the coroner said at that immediate that first meeting with him.
Let's get
Man,
back.
I don't trust no damn body out there in Mississippi, bro. I need to see your tattoos. I need to know your history. Somebody else from another state should have been on this case, bro. Whoever was around Nolan Wells should have been in the damn interrogation room. Stories should have been compared with each other. What the hell are they doing? I don't trust no damn body. I don't care how many damn bombshells you got in your title or your video. I'm starting not to trust Nancy Grace at this point. Seriously. But as I've been doing, I'm going to keep giving y'all the information, the latest on what's going on. And that's the end of the video. The way y'all can help is continuously
feel like this. Josh Gill, incident commander for the United Cajun Navy, just sat down with Nancy Grace and spoke about the Nolan Xavier Wells case. And I hated every second of Josh's interview. I feel like this interview was set up and staged to shift the narrative. We have seen this play before, and I am not having it. Why is Josh sitting up there and telling us how amazing the sheriff was? And why is he telling us that the coroner saw no evidence of foul play? They are trying to rewind the time and erase everything that we found out about since July the 6th. Why is Josh telling us how frantic Christine was July the 6th when she found out that Nolan's body was identified? Oh, she was sitting down in gravel crying. Elmore was not that emotional. He was stoic. Why are you telling us all of this information, Josh? If they wanted us to know this, Christine and Elmore would have told us themselves. Y'all know I already do not trust the United Cajun Navy. They have done some very suspicious things since the beginning of this investigation. And after this interview, now I know my intuition was right. However, as much as I hated this interview, I will give Nancy credit for one thing. Nancy had on a guest inspector that let us into some very important information. This inspector said that normally, most bodies that drowned in water do not wash up on shore. He has never seen it. Meaning, if Nolan was in the water, how come his body was found on the sand? AKA meaning Nolan was probably placed there. There has been a ton of information over the past 24 hours in the Nolan Xavier Wells case. Sit back, relax. I'll tell you everything you need to know, and then I'll hand it off to you, the Out Louders, to let me know what you think in the comment section below. Pictured right beside me here is Josh Gill, the incident commander for the United Cajun Navy. I would like to remind you guys that the United Cajun Navy is a group of retired potential cops or potential captains or just people that have money that come together to do search and rescue. It's a nonprofit organization, okay? no sort of official authority, no government, there are no police. They are just like me and you. They're supposed to be out there to help people. But as you all know, they have done some very, very suspect things, and they have said some things about this investigation that I really, really question. And I'm going to show you guys, play some clips from this recent Nancy Grace interview that, to me, confirms my suspicion. Now, Nancy, first of all, kicked off this interview with something that I really didn't like. Nancy says, from what we can gather, Nolan passed away July the 4th. Now, right away, I was like, Nancy, why would you say that? We have no idea what happened. There is an active investigation. We do not know what happened. We don't know if he was back on the boat. We don't know if he went back on the mainland. We don't know what happened. We don't know what happened the 5th. We don't know what happened the 6th. All we know is that his body was found July the 6th around 9 a.m. And until this investigation is complete, I don't want to hear anybody assuming when Nolan passed away, because we don't know. So when I heard that, I was like, yo, is Nancy gone over to the opposition? Is she gone over to the other side? Really didn't like that. Then after she makes that comment, she jumps over to July the 6th and starts talking with Josh Gill about him meeting up with Christine as soon as a body was found and them going over to the coroner's office together. And I'm going to walk you through this. Josh says that Christine was frantic. She called him because they had been talking since Sunday, and they were, on the phone back and forth, I guess, through Sunday, saying, hey, we're flying over, we're looking for your son, et cetera, et cetera. So by all means, from what all Christine knew was that they are there to help, okay? So she calls him now frantic, saying, the sheriff just called me and said they found a body. Can you meet me at the boat launch, which is a base that they all got together, all the authorities and agencies got to one base. And he said, okay, I will meet you there. On that call, he's saying Christine was frantic. I already didn't like that, because why are you telling this to us, sir? We don't need to know that. And if we wanted to know, Christine would tell us ourselves. She says she called Josh, saying that the sheriff called her, saying that a body had been found and that she wanted him to meet her at the base. Josh said that he had been in communication with Christine since Sunday morning. Nancy then asked Josh what Christine said to him when they first spoke, when they first got each other's phone numbers, July the 5th. What did Christine say about the day? And Josh says the only thing Christine ever told him was that Nolan went out to Horn Island with his friends, and he said that was totally normal. That's what a lot of people did. They got on boats and went out to Horn Island. I guess Nancy was trying to get some more information, didn't say anything. Then Josh went on to recount how Christine was. He says as soon as him and Christine met up at the search base, the launch boat area, they both ran into each other's arms and started crying. Josh says that he's a softie. He hugged her, and they both were on the ground in the gravel crying for 15 minutes. Again, information that we were not privy to, that we don't need to know, and it does not need to be splashed all over YouTube. Now, I'm just doing my due diligence and telling you guys because it's already out there, which I hate to do. You guys know that. I hate to talk to you about Officer Tatum. I hate to talk to you about what these boys did. I hate to talk to you guys about what their defamation, little Tyler and little Eddie. But it's my job as a content creator, and that's why you trust coming to this channel, because I have to, because I give you guys everything, as much as I'm reluctant to. But I don't need to know that information. Neither does any of you. And I've always said that our marching orders, my marching orders and your marching orders, should be from Christine, Elmore, and their legal team. Okay. Nancy goes on to say, well, how was Elmore? Another piece of information we don't need. He says Elmore was stoic and quiet. Why are you trying to make us think that Elmore doesn't care? Why are you doing that? You're saying that Christine was so frantic, she was crying. You were crying, you were on the floor, but Elmore was stoic and he was quiet. And he's like, oh, that doesn't mean anything because everybody has different emotions. Why are you trying to like subtly tell us that like he doesn't care about his son? When we see on every single interview, Elmore is more emotional than Christine, but when he finds out he's just stoic and quiet, I really don't like this guy, Josh. Then they move on to talking about the body and how the body was ID'd. They were saying at this point it was just a body, but the reason why they were crying and on the floor, Josh and Christine, is because he said that Christine had mother's intuition. She didn't even have to see the body. They didn't have to tell her that it was Nolan. She knew. She's been searching the whole Sunday and beginning of Saturday. She just knew before it was already identified. And Josh said that they were saying prayers, etc., etc. Now, here is where the interview goes even more left for me. Josh says, the sheriff comes over to them and tells them that the body is en route to the coroner's office and they could go and see the body if they would like. Nancy asks him, is this the sheriff or just a deputy sheriff? Meaning the sheriff that we all heard about in the beginning saying, oh, I don't see any evidence of foul play. The sheriff that we don't like. The guy, Josh says, no, the sheriff. And then Josh proceeds to say, oh, and he was so nice. He was such a nice, amazing sheriff. I just would like to reiterate how compassionate he was. Josh knows that nobody likes that sheriff. Why are you trying to tell us how compassionate he was?
When the sheriff came over, was it the sheriff or a deputy sheriff?
It was the sheriff. He told Christine, here's what's going on. Here's where you need to go for further information. And again, extremely professional, extremely polite. And the biggest word I can use was he was compassionate.
Now they move on to the coroner's office. He says they walked into the coroner's office and of course everybody was assuming that it was Nolan, but the coroner wanted a DNA sample for their records. Josh says Christine asked the coroner the condition that Nolan's body was in, and he said, the coroner says, I see no evidence of foul play. Again, trying to shift the narrative. First, it starts off with Elmore being an unemotional father. Then he's trying to tell us the sheriff is the most compassionate, most understanding sheriff of all times. And then he wants to say, oh, the coroner says no foul play. Again, trying to get into our head, trying to shift the narrative.
She asked about the condition, and he went into, there were no immediate signs of foul play. No signs of trauma or any, I don't know what the word I'm looking for is, any, signs of foul play. We would consider that.
Nancy then goes on to ask Josh, was Nolan ID'd with DNA or dental records? And Josh says, I don't know. The first time he doesn't have an explanation or an answer for something. Then Nancy asked one of her producers, and her producer says Nolan was ID'd with dental records. So then Nancy has on an expert, an inspector, and she says, hey, why would Nolan be identified with dental records? Why wouldn't he be identified just visually or with fingerprints? Then the expert gives this answer to me that saves this entire interview. I was literally going to throw my computer out the window. But then he gives the explanation and says, normally, if there's just a body found and that you could visually, somebody can identify our fingerprints. But if you've been in certain conditions like hot weather, or if your body is in a state where they can't be ID'd, fingerprints or whatever, that is when they will go over to dental records and then also DNA. Then he goes on to say, while he's speaking about body condition, he says, if Nolan was in the water the whole time since he passed away, that would actually be good because normally the water, if he's face down, the water would preserve the body. Then he goes on to say, but what I find weird is that normally if somebody drowns in the water, they normally stay in this area. It's very weird that Nolan was found in the sand right at the entrance of where the water is. I wonder why. Could maybe he have just been placed there?
Usually the water is cooler temperature, and if that person is face down in the water or completely submerged, their body is pretty well preserved until they surface. Usually a body after a couple of days surfaces. So I'm really surprised that he was on the shore. I've never personally investigated a drowning case where a person just ends up on the shore. Usually in bodies of water, the person will stay in pretty much the location where they go underwater if it's witnessed. They don't usually move around much after they have submerged or gone underwater. So to me, it's very concerning that he was on the shore, or that his body surfaced that quickly. But again, his position at the edge of the bank or partially in the water, that's really concerning because there's tons of people around that area. If he was in that position or on the shore decomposing for a day or so, why did nobody see him?
That's proof from an expert, ladies and gentlemen. This theory of, Nolan probably, was in the water. He didn't know what was going on and he was drinking and, the sand just drops off so quickly and then he drowns. Yeah, bodies don't wash up. This is not Hollywood. This is not the movies. You just heard it from an expert. So if Nolan passed away in the sand where a bunch of people were, how come nobody saw him? Just like this expert is asking. If Nancy did not put that part in this interview, I don't think I would have watched Nancy again, because I know some of you are on the fence about Nancy, but I feel like she has done a good job until this interview and putting on this Josh Gill, who I really do not like. But I'm still in Nancy's corner because she gave us a lot of insight with that inspector's opinion. Okay, that is all the information that happened in the past 24 hours. You guys now tell me what you think. What do you think about this interview? What do you think about Josh Gill? What do you think about the United Cajun Navy? And please remember, they are no official agency. They're just like me and you. They're here to just help people. I feel that they haven't been helpful. If you guys remember, one of I think it was the president or VP or something said, hey, we're here to help Christine, but she has to come and ask us for stuff. Don't forget about that. Also, in this interview, Josh says, Christine and I used to talk on the Sunday and the Monday, and then when she got a lawyer, our communication stopped. Why are you saying these things? And I'm happy that Christine lawyered up, and I don't know if she stopped talking to them or not. I'm not saying if Christine likes United Cajun Navy or not. These are just my thoughts. But something happened along the way. Somebody got suspicious and the communication stopped. And the fact that y'all keep on going on Nancy Grace and talking about all this business, I would have stopped talking to you too. Anyways, let me stop talking so much because I really cannot wait to hear what you guys have to say in the comment section. Sound off. Did you like the interview? Did you like Josh? What do you think about this recent piece of evidence and information that we now know that normally if you drown in water, you stay there. You don't normally just wash up on the sand. That is telling, okay? When you guys are sending off and let me know what you think, please do not forget a few things, okay? Please do not forget to like very, very
Xavier Wells update, and Nancy talked to Jeff Landry's from the United Cajun Navy, and he might have just given us the proof that Nolan's body being found on Horn Island the way it was reeks of foul play. Check this out.
Wet sand. That's the way to put it. It's wet sand. He's not out in the water, Jeff Gentry. What does that mean, if anything?
That's really abnormal. I would have a ton of questions in that case. I would wonder, if there's no waves, no strong current, why is that body up on a shore? How did it get there? And just like when we're looking at blood evidence or other forms of evidence, if something is in a certain position within a scene, you have to question how it got there. I have investigated a lot of deaths, bodies in canals, rivers, lakes, large bodies of water, never really near the ocean, to where you would expect somebody to wash up to shore. But in these cases, even though there's strong current, waves, large bodies of water, I've never really seen bodies up on a shore, especially up out of the water enough to where they could decompose significantly to where they can't be identified or can't be fingerprinted. So that would be a very big question that I would have in this case, is with the absence of waves, with the absence of a strong current, how in the world did this 19-year-old man end up on shore out of the water?
Yes. How, with the absence of waves or the absence of a current, did Nolan just wash up on the shore like that? It makes you think, allegedly, that somebody or some people put him back on that island, and we need answers. No justice, no peace. Secret Service.
As the scripture says, all things hidden will be revealed, and those things done in secret will be exposed on the mountaintop. Peace and blessings, all praises to the Most High. And that was our brother Secret Sam, who's been covering the Nolan Wells case with a clip from Nancy Grace's last night show, which I watched, and I noticed the same thing. Now, the man that they were talking to was from the Cajun Navy. And you heard him say in that clip, which I'm going to play a little bit more of it, of how it is impossible for a person to just wash up on the shore like that. And you're going to hear some more about even the decomposition. They said, well, okay, well, normally a body wouldn't decompose like that if it is in water. Now, mind you, the Cajun Navy searched on the 5th and the body was not there. And then they find it on the 6th, badly decomposed. So if the body came up out of water and it just stayed up there for, a few hours, then it wouldn't be badly decomposed as such. But if y'all remember, I talked with a local resident of Jackson County, and he expressed the same sentiments. And he is going to explain why. I'm going to play this clip from our interview. And he said as soon as he got the call that the Cajun Navy had searched all around and they didn't find him, he said he knew that Nolan was not out there. Just listen to him, dude. Now, with this latest situation with Nolan Wells, right? All right. How did, I guess you feel or the community feel or when it first happened? What was the community's reaction as far as, from an activist standpoint, from a Black people standpoint, or just from a personal standpoint?
Well, the community's action at first was they knew that he was missing. And so a lot of residents got out in their boats and they went out there to the island, either, hoping that maybe he had, he was out there walking around on the island, got left, or maybe he had tried to swim back, which is not possible. But, they were looking at all angles. And so many people went out there. And so when I got the call, they asked me, did I think that it was an NAACP issue? And so I wasn't really familiar with what happened. And so they began to explain. And I was like, well, quite naturally, I think somebody needs to go and try to see what's exactly going on. Well, what wound up happening, that was all day on that Sunday. And so we came back from church and I knew that the Cajun Navy had been out there. And so once I knew that the Cajun Navy had been out there and they didn't find him, then I knew he was not there. Because see, the way that this water works in the Gulf, which a lot of people don't really understand, it looks calm on top of the water, okay? But underneath the water, they have all kind of currents. And the currents, they swirl in some areas, and then they run from east to west, and then they have what we call sinkholes there. So they have like what you call whirlpools, and they actually pull you down in the water. So nobody actually thought about him drowning or anything. They just knew that something wasn't right. Because see, the Cajun Navy, they go to every place whenever it's flooding hurricanes or any type thing. So if you out there in the water, they gonna find you. And they didn't find you.
So you said that Saturday when they looked for him, or that Sunday?
That Sunday.
Sunday when they looked for him, and you said that when they didn't find him, you knew that
Correct.
he wasn't there.
He wasn't there.
In the water or on the island, period? Like
he wasn't on the island because everybody went out there on the island. And we knew he wasn't in the water because they had so many boats out there to where they covered everything on the south side of that island, to the east of that island, to the west of the island, and then they were riding out there to the island, so they got everything to the north. They didn't see him. He wasn't out there. And the people, what I really want most people to understand is on these boats, they have these things that I don't know the exact term for, but what happens is that if it's fish down in the water, they can see the fish. So if it was a body that was down in the water, they would have been able to detect that as well. He didn't show up on anything.
Okay, so basically, you knew he wasn't out there. So okay, so when you thought about that, then what was the next thing that went through your mind?
That something had done happen. That's the first thing that went through my mind.
All right, so that's activist Richard Jackson down there in Jackson County. And he said once the Navy went out there, because they have all the technology and they are able to find a body in that water, that he knew that the boy wasn't out there that day. So what does that leave? That leaves what everybody thinks happened, that somehow, some way, that someone took Nolan away from the island, and then maybe he died on the 4th, and they kept his body until the 6th. They had to find somewhere to keep it, and it decomposed, and then they found a way after the Cajun Navy already searched. They went out there and dumped the body on the land, in which this one you're going to hear the guy specifically say, a body doesn't wash up on the land like that. Check out this clip from Nancy Grace from just last night's show, where this guy basically proves what everybody feels that happened, that Nolan didn't drown out there. His body just didn't wash up on the shore. And the way he's saying it, that the body had to be placed there, as our brother Richard Jackson said.
Jeff, my takeaway from what you just said is they could not make a visual identification, and they could not use fingerprints. You said those were the first two choices, then dental, then DNA. Why would they not be able to make a visual ID?
I'm assuming because he was outside and in the elements for a day or so. It's hot, it's July, it's very warm weather. However, in most cases where I have seen drownings where the person is underwater for a period of time, their body is pretty well preserved, unless we're talking.
Hear what he said? When a person is underwater for a period of time, so if Nolan drowned on the 4th and didn't rise up to the sand on the 6th, then he would have been preserved, according to this expert witness.
Talking about like multiple days, weeks that this person is underwater. Usually the water is cooler temperature, and if that person is face down in the water or completely submerged, their body is pretty well preserved until they surface, usually.
So according to the drowning theory, he stayed underwater for 2 days. And this guy said the body would be preserved, but Nolan showed up on this sand that you're looking at badly decomposed.
Body after a couple of days surfaces. So I'm really surprised that he was on the shore. I've never personally investigated a drowning case where a person just ends up on the shore, especially if there's not a strong current or waves. Usually in bodies of water, the person will stay in pretty much the location where they go underwater if it's witnessed. They don't usually move around much after they have submerged or gone underwater. So to me, it's very concerning that he was on the shore, or that his body surfaced that quickly. But that's what I am guessing is why they couldn't do an immediate visual identification with the family.
And see, this guy basically said, okay, I've never seen a situation where a body washes up on shore like that, especially halfway on shore and halfway in the land. So how all of a sudden is Nolan just the bionic floating drowned dead body, which defies all laws of gravity, which defies all laws of decomposition, which defies all laws of physics, according to what's in this Navy expert?
Even fingerprints. So I would really like to know more about the condition of the body. That's what I am assessing as a death investigator when I respond to a scene. So there should be a death investigation report from a death investigator who has experience looking at bodies and has experience examining these type of things to show exactly what his condition was when he was found. And if the body is decomposed more than what you would normally expect in a drowning case, that should be a big red flag. That's something that you definitely need to look into further.
So you're saying, let me follow up on what you just said. You find it odd that he was quasi on the shore. You also stated that location where the body is found is typically where they went under. You also said that the body must have been too decomposed to make a facial ID. I did not hear an explanation as to why fingerprint ID was impossible.
Fingerprint identification would be impossible if the hands were dried out to an extent where they can't be fingerprinted. Sometimes people that are underwater, or if the hands are underwater, the skin, just like if you're in the bathtub for a prolonged period of time, the skin ends up looking the same way. It just gets kind of wrinkled, and it's very hard to get a usable or workable fingerprint in those scenarios. So one scenario would be the body is too decomposed to get a fingerprint or a visual identification. And then the alternate scenario is the body or the hands were exposed to the water too long to where they just are not able to get a good workable print. So those are the different possibilities. But again, his position at the edge of the bank or partially in the water, that's really concerning because there's tons of people around that area. If he was in that position or on the shore decomposing for a day or so, why did nobody see him? Those would be my type of questions that I would ask if I were a death investigator responding to this scene.
Jeff, I'm looking right now at the photo of his body, and it's about, the beach is flat, and I would say it's about 3 to 4 feet from where there's nothing but sand, no water. It looks like it's at just as the water is starting, like you could walk in it very easily and your ankles may not even get wet. He's not out in the water at all. He's on the beach and on wet sand. That's the way to put it. It's wet sand. He's not out in the water, Jeff Gentry. What does that mean, if anything?
That's really abnormal. I would have a ton of questions in that case. I would wonder if there's no waves, no strong current, why is that body up on a shore? How did it get there? And just like when we're looking at blood evidence or other forms of evidence, if something is in a certain position within a scene, you have to question how it got there. I have investigated a lot of deaths, bodies in canals, rivers, lakes, large bodies of water, never really near the ocean to where you would expect somebody to wash up to shore. But in these cases, even though there's strong current, waves, large bodies of water, I've never really seen bodies up on a shore, especially up out of the water enough to where they could decompose significantly to where they can't be identified or can't be fingerprinted. So that would be a very big question that I would have in this case is, with the absence of waves, with the absence of a strong current, how in the world did this 19-year-old man end up on shore out of the water?
Josh, I'm going to pick back up.
All right, so we can stop it right there. This guy said, listen, with the absence of current, with the absence of waves, how did he end up on the shore? Like when Nancy Gray's looking at the pictures, he was like, listen, his body is right there on the sand, wet sand, not even in the water. He is laying on the beach. Guy said, this is abnormal. I'd have a lot of questions. So this is an expert witness saying, okay, bodies don't drown like that. So to all of the people who say Nolan drowned and that's just it, that's the end of the story, here's expert testimony that refutes that. Body too badly decomposed to be sitting in water for 2 days. And once again, if their body drowns in a certain place, it doesn't move all the way over here out of the water. Never seen that in his life. So y'all tell me what y'all think happened to our dear brother Nolan. And and I had to get past the hard part of that Nancy Grace show because they got with the Cajun Navy and said, well, yeah, his mother tried to get us to go with her. We held her hand and she was crying, trying to enact a sympathy of the Cajun Navy with the family. But later on, they explained, okay, his body didn't. Basically what they're saying, his body didn't wash up on shore like that. Somebody placed him there. To sum it all up, just like my brother Richard Jackson said. So this is more evidence and fuel to the fire of Nolan's death not being an accidental drowning, but possibly a murder and cover-up. Y'all let me know what y'all think.
Willie D Live.
What's up, family? Let's talk about an uncivilized mutt. So we got people out here investigating or allegedly investigating Nolan Wells's death, right? They're trying to determine whether it was an accidental drowning or something more nefarious, like somebody actually killed him, or maybe he had an accident, right? They're trying to determine that, they say, right? Speculation running rampant, right? Well, we got one guy who's decided that he has a different theory that has been shared so far, right? There's a guy on, what is it, IG, or I believe it was IG, calls himself Matt Penix. He said that this was get back for Austin, talking about Austin Metcalf, who was killed by Carmelo Anthony in 2025 at a track meet in Texas. He said this was get back. Now, this is who they say this guy is. This is what he looks like. They say this is Matt Penix. If this is Matt Penix, I find it interesting that this guy has these gold teeth in his mouth, something that was co-opted from Black folks, right? This is part of Black culture, right? Interesting. But let me pivot for a moment, fam, because, you got these type of ignorant people all throughout America. Somehow they know how to hold an entire race of people accountable when one Black person is accused of something. But they don't know how to do that when, and they also do that when one Mexican or Latino person or immigrant is accused of something, or a Muslim is accused of something. But when it comes to white people who are accused of something egregious, if they commit a crime, they tend to know how to isolate that. It's just automatically they know how to isolate it. And they say it was a lone wolf. He acted alone. They hold him to his own merit, right? So let this uncivilized mutt tell it. The theory is Nolan somehow paid the price for what Carmelo Anthony allegedly did to Austin Metcalf. Now, it's not alleged that he killed him. We know he killed him. If you want to talk about manner or why and all of this type of stuff, then, there's room for discussion. But let's test that theory consistently, right? Let's test the theory of Matt, the rat, uncivilized mutt consistently. Black Americans have been killed by white offenders throughout American history. So who exactly, Matt, are supposed to pay for those debts? Think about it. Emmett Till, James Byrd, the Charleston Church Massacre, Ahmaud Arbery, the Buffalo Supermarket Massacre. And what about Trayvon Martin? Did I mention Emmett Till? What about George Floyd, Walter Scott, Eric Garner, Michael Brown, Tamir Rice, Amadou Diallo? What about the Tulsa Race Massacre? What about Rosewood Massacre? What about the lynching era? From the post-Civil War to the mid-20th century, over 4,000 lynchings of Black Americans occurred on U.S. soil. Exactly who are supposed to die for those killings? Matt, you want to volunteer since that's your logic? If one person over here kills somebody, one person of a particular race kills somebody, then some person of that same race needs to be killed arbitrarily. Somebody got to die from that race. Is that the game you really want to play? Or again, is that one of those type of games where you invent and you change the rules as you go? You move the goalpost. Because I want to know, with all of those killings, and it's so many, all of those killings of Black people by white people, at the hands of white people, it's documented. This is not guessing. These are documented. I'm not even talking about the mysterious cases of Black people who have been popping up dead over the last few centuries. I'm not even talking about that. I'm not even talking about the mysterious deaths. I'm talking about the ones where we know white people killed people. We know who did it. Did random white people suddenly become responsible for those killers? Of course not. Because guilt, you fool, is not inherited through skin color, you super dummy. Nolan had nothing to do with Carmelo Anthony. Austin Metcalf had nothing to do with Nolan Wales. If you believe an unrelated Black person should suffer because another Black person committed a crime, you're endorsing collective racial punishment, which is something you probably don't know nothing about because you're that slow. You are your mammy's son. What I want to know is, okay, let's just say that's the rules. Okay, so we all just one big gang now, huh? You hit us, we hit you. You hit us, you hit. Y'all, you really want to play that game? I don't think you want to play that game. I don't think, it's not that you don't want to play the game because you think that, Black people have some type of advantage. It's just that you don't want to take no losses. You feel what I'm saying? You don't want to take no losses at all. Because once you accept that logic, where does it stop? The whole argument collapses the moment you apply the same standard in the opposite direction. I'm talking about the entire argument collapses. Because you have uncivilized mutts like Matt, who really plays the victim. He plays the race card, he plays the victim. Black homicide victimization remains disproportionately high. When you consider this, I want you to think about this, fam. In 2023, Black homicide victimization rate was 21.3 per 100,000 people. Compare that to 3.2 for white Americans. But here's another fact. Most violence occurs within racial groups. 84% of Black homicides or white homicides are white victims. White homicides or white victims, they were killed by white people. 93% of Black homicides, Black suspects, Black offenders. The trip part about it is, most of us have heard that before. We've heard it time and time again. And so we actually know that crime is about proximity. We don't even have to look at statistics. We don't need to go read no book. We don't need a statistician to tell us all of this stuff. We already know that. Common sense would tell you that, because normally when you hear about a white person getting killed on the news, it's a white person who killed him. Normally when you hear about a Black person getting killed on the news, it's a Black person who killed him. Normally when you hear about a Latino being killed, it's a Latino person who killed him. Because crime is about proximity. People harm the people who they're closest to. So most of us, we understand that, we know that. But focusing on that fact is too much like right. Because the uncivilized mutts, they have to figure out some kind of way to blame anybody but themselves. They got to figure out some kind of way to escape accountability. A lot of times when you have these mass shooters, they're mass shooters because they've given up on life. They've given up on life because they can't do what the average person does every single day. The average, millions of people do. Old people, young people, I'm talking about kids, handicapped people, special needs people. And that's get up every damn day. Get up, get out and go get something. Even the babies, the youngsters got to get up and get dressed to go to pre-K. They got to go to middle school, elementary. They get up every day and go do it. They got to get up to go practice. But see, the uncivilized mutts, they've given up. And so what they do is they try to they place this misplaced anger on people who they more than likely have no type of connection to. Because it's easier for them to buy the narrative, to buy into the old narrative that is us versus them, as opposed to me versus me. I did this to myself. It's easier to blame somebody else than to take full accountability. these uncivilized mutts have given up on life. They can't hack it no more. They can't go to work like the average person can and work for somebody and take orders from somebody. They can't do it. And they also ain't savvy enough to just start their own company. They ain't savvy enough to run their own business. So in their mind, you know what? I just rather die or go to jail and get 3 hots and a cot and sit on my ass all day. That's the game, because that's here. Than actually being civilized. What this uncivilized mutt Matt said makes absolutely no sense. And unless there's evidence connecting Nolan's death to Carmelo Anthony's case, racial payback is an inflammatory social media theory, not an established explanation. No more talk.
Willie D. Live.
A metro area attorney is now part of Nolan Wells' family's legal team. 16 WAPT's Ross Adams has more on his role in the case.
Nearly 2 months now since his body was found on Horn Island, and we're no closer to finding out what happened to Nolan Wells. The family has added some new legal firepower with a local attorney joining the legal team.
I think it helps to have somebody local who's, from the soil, somebody that, is kind of familiar with the terrain, with the people.
Jackson criminal defense attorney Ahmad Smith signed on 3 weeks ago. Smith will assist National Civil Rights Attorney Ben Crump, along with the NAACP Office of Legal Counsel, working on an independent investigation. Many, including Wells' parents, have raised serious questions about how law enforcement authorities on the Gulf Coast are handling the investigation.
They've spoken out publicly often enough to suggest that they have some skepticism about the way that this process is played out.
Wells' body was found washed up on the water 2 days after he and a group of friends set off on a boat from Ocean Springs to Horn Island on 4th of July. Smith says the cases are the attention from around the world. Some are worried about a cover-up.
There have been instances where Black bodies have been found floating in Mississippi waters in mysterious circumstances. So people naturally harken back to some of that history.
Smith says he spoke with Wells' parents last week during a gathering for what would have been his 19th birthday.
While they're grieving, the disposition to me seems to be one that is hopeful. They're trusting the team that they've amassed.
Smith believes an independent investigation is indispensable because he says you can't always trust the information coming from state prosecutors will be accurate. He says sometimes they may not have the knowledge or the resources. Sometimes they will simply miss something. Reporting from Jackson, Ross Adams, 16 WAPT News.
Okay, fam, here's the deal. Either way you slice it, this is a major addition to the Wells' family legal team. Ahmad Smith brings Mississippi legal experience to the table. Ain't nothing like having boots on the ground, somebody who knows the terrain. He knows Mississippi well. He knows the court system well. He knows the players, right? Now, I'm going to keep it a buck with you, fam. I'm going to keep it a buck with you. Just because they hired this guy does not mean that it's an automatic win for Nolan Wells's family and his legal team. It does not mean it's automatic. This appears to be a boost. Again, it appears to be a boost, major boost, because we got boots on the ground. We got a local guy who's on the legal team now. He knows the terrain. Having local counsel matters because Ahmaud understands Mississippi courts. He understands the procedures and state law. A stronger legal team means more eyes examining the evidence and official narrative. Let's take a look at everything. We got more people that we have in Nolan's corner, the better chance that we have in getting Nolan Wells justice. The family now has another attorney who can push for records, preserve evidence, and challenge inconsistencies. That's a big deal. This sends a message. The Wells family or the Wansley family is not backing down. The question now becomes, what will Ahmaud see that others may have missed? In his interview you just saw, he seemed a little reserved in his responses. Now, that could just simply be him like, not trying to tip his hand too much. Like, look, I'm gonna do this interview, I'm gonna let y'all know I'm part of the team, but I'm not gonna give you anything that you don't already have. I'm just gonna be here and I'm just gonna answer the baseline questions and that's it. Don't look for no shots from the top of the key. Don't look for none of that. I'm not gonna give you none of that. So perhaps that's his position. Can this addition help the family get more transparency from investigators and prosecutors? Maybe, maybe not. I don't mean to be cynical, fam. I don't mean to be cynical, but I gotta see. I gotta kind of see what dude is about. I gotta watch him move around first. I'm just getting hip to him. So I gotta watch him move first. I gotta watch him. And now, but he is, Ben Crump picked him. So I'm thinking that, they had to vet him. They had to seriously vet him. Sometimes in these type of situations, people get on your team and sell you out. I'm not saying that's what dude is doing, but it happens. You saw what happened in the Carmelo Anthony case, right? His first and second chair sold him out. Yeah, they straight up sold him out. A 35-year sentence for a fight that resulted in murder, a fight that he didn't even start, that resulted in murder on the spot, not a premeditated murder, not I went to the car, came back with something, not I went in the house, came back with something, not that I drove around for about 2 hours and thought about it and then approached him. None of that. It was like, dude accosted me, get into a scuffle, I pull out that thing and stick him. And hey, man, shouldn't I get some grace for that? Like, because I didn't intend on harming anybody. I definitely didn't intend on killing anybody. I didn't initiate the fight. Dude brought the fight to me. In any event, these type of things do happen. And this is Mississippi. I absolutely do not trust officials in Mississippi. Now, Ahmaud is not an official. He is an official lawyer, but he's not an official. He does not work for the courts. He does not work for the people. He's an independent contractor, so to speak. So, okay, I'm gonna go ahead and give him the benefit of the doubt. I'll go ahead and give him the benefit of the doubt that he's gonna do right by the people. But this is just one of those things, fam, when we got a lot of reason to be skeptical, you know. It's Mississippi, man. You know, this is a state that really is not interested in treating Black people like human beings, let alone giving them justice, making sure they get justice, you know. Mississippi ain't like that. I think the legal team should focus on phone data, boat GPS, witness timelines, and the search of Horn Island. Yeah. Compare that eyewitness account to that digital forensic and that GPS timeline, digital data. Yeah. Make the comparisons and let's get down to the bottom of this case. Let's get down to the nitty gritty. So, again, fam, adding a new lawyer does not guarantee that it'll put them in a better position. But it's also important to know that it does not, mean that wrongdoing, it's not evidence of wrongdoing. But it does give the family more resources to test what they've been told. You know, that's the biggest part of it. It gives the family more resources to test what has been told. It gives the family more resources to examine the evidence. Yeah. So that's a good thing. So Ahmad Smith's involvement in this case could ultimately change the direction of the Nolan Wells investigation. That's a good thing. And, you know, after speaking with Ms. Trotman, Attorney Trotman today, Yolanda Trotman, I guess I kind of learned, you know, let me fall back a little bit and not be in such a hurry to get this justice. I think as long as we get justice, it does not matter if it comes today or if it comes next month or if it comes next year. Now I ain't talking about putting it off 10, 20 years or something like that, but let's get these prosecutors, let's give the investigators time to really, really investigate. You know, granted, if that is indeed what they're doing, if they're really investigating, right? Let's give them time to do their job. We don't want to rush them into something, because we rush them into something and they mess around and overcharge them, then they get off, then, you know, next thing you know, you got chaos, because it's worse than that overcharging them and them getting off will be worse than charging them correctly and them getting off, right? That's the way I see it. Like, because overcharge is like automatic, okay, you're out of here. But the other way, not so fast. But what say you, fam? Drop a comment. I'd love to hear your thoughts. No more talk.
finally got my hands on the Al Sharpton defamation lawsuit, and it has been illuminating, to say the least. Because y'all know that my specialty is those details, and clearly these people are not detail-oriented. I'm sure by now many of you have seen the picture that I posted yesterday with a mysterious red watered-down liquid dripping down the side of the boat. Now, none of us can definitively say what this is, but it's clear to me that some people have never gone fishing in their entire life, because those people trying to argue and say that the color is off, that it's too light, don't seem to get that fishing boats are specifically coated with something that makes things wash off of it, makes things thin, makes it easy to get things like fish guts out. But fine, if that's not enough for you, I'll keep going, because this TikToker literally over a month ago thought that they spotted this on the side of the boat. Now, they noticed those drips, and full disclosure, they did run it through like a AI cleanup thing, and this was the result of that. And even when you go back and look at the older versions of this video, as the angle changes, you can see those drippy marks. But I even took this picture of Warren on the Triton with his fish just so I can show you what it does look like on the side of the boat when there is a red fluid. To me, it seems pretty obvious what this liquid is, because I've genuinely racked my brain to think of something else it could be. And it just doesn't make sense for like an alcoholic beverage because it's on the outside of the railing. If you look back in the original Cito video, this person here, who I suspect to be Ike Pyrone, was holding something in his hands, and I could never figure out what it was until we got the new pictures. Here you can clearly see a gray something in his hands. Well, going back to this picture of Warren with all of his fish, you'll notice that the Triton has a gray towel normally wrapped around it. Oh, why would they need a towel if they're in the middle of sinking, unless they're trying to clean something up? I also noticed something in this much clearer raw shot of the Cito picture right here. We see something dark reddish here and like lighter red over here. Now, I have no idea what that is. It could be a towel. It could be a swimsuit cover-up. I did notice, however, it looked like somebody took a tool and like colored right here. What I do know is if you look at the original Cito pictures and videos, there's nothing seemingly red here. But it does look like, however, is somebody's leg extending way too far into the console here. But again, can't say one way or the other what it is in the background there. What I can say, however, is remember when I said that the AI felt like it was being used on the Cito video to obscure the identities of the girls? Well, I was at least half right on this, because this is a third girl. This is not the girl in the blue swimsuit that we've been seeing before. How do I know? Well, by now we've all seen this picture, this video 1,000 times, right? Girl in the blue swimsuit with the backwards hat. Well, I have suspected for a long time now that there was somebody being hidden back here, and I was proven right. Y'all see how this girl is wearing a watch? Well, right there in the original video / photo is somebody back there wearing a watch. Once you know to look for it, you can actually see it. Make sure you got your brightness turned all the way up, but you can see that reflection of the watch right here. At the same time, the girl in the backwards hat is over here. The two major suspects for this, one of them being Lainey, but it seems to me like the more likely suspect is probably Ava, the other Seymour Hudson sibling. And as you can see here, she does in fact have an Apple Watch that sure looks a lot like the one right here. Also found extremely interesting in that letter. Remember how we've seen this picture? We never really confirmed whether it was real or not until Tatum showed us. So somehow Officer Tatum had his hands on this picture, and you'll notice in the filing, oh look, what do we have here? The exact same swimsuit I talked about a couple days ago, and that whole friend group. So clearly this photo originated with the group that Katie got a ride from. Y'all know I have said for a long time that I suspected that Katie was in those pictures and on that boat based on the swimsuit and the white hat that she's wearing in this picture that was taken on the boat of the people that came and gave her a ride after being left on the island. And I do think that maybe they joined this group because there's a couple of faces that look familiar. But I'll circle back to that later. I want to point out some more little stuff that I've noticed before we get to the big stuff, the meat and potatoes of this video. Like here, how I noticed that the cooler that was on the boat earlier that day by the Cito pictures is suddenly got the handle broken off. Don't know if that's significant, but it's interesting. Also kind of surprised how nobody has pointed out in this picture that there is clearly at least one mom in that group. And I suspect that it's Katie Hudson Seymour, because she is literally like the only person I have found that has a shorter haircut. I'm talking kids, I'm talking adults associated with this group. I mean, clearly this is a mom vibe. So what boat did she go out on? I'm also very confused on why this portion of the tide line in that far away picture doesn't seem to match up with this picture of the tide line. And sure, there's an argument where you can say, oh, it's just in heavy shadow, but I'm sorry, the water reflects the sunlight. You would get at least a color difference. But anyway, I also strongly suspect that the girl who's at the front of the boat is actually Warren and Carter's sister. Her head shape, her smile, all of it just that feels correct. But again, like, this is all my own opinion. Like, I don't know, you don't know. But the reason I say this is because if it's Katie on this boat with everybody, then that would make them the odd man out in this family affair. Notice how this boat is absolutely not sinking. Like, there's Wyatt still supposedly on the phone. Most of these people are standing in the same place. And look, you can even see Horn Island in the background. But this boat looks like it's about to go under. Guys, how did they magically get this boat to start floating without planing? Because remember, they're supposed to plane it to drain all the water out to stop it from sinking. Now, just the last little thing I want to touch on before I move on to the meat and potatoes is, anybody else think it's weird that the fingers are covering the picture? I mean, truly, when was the last time anybody recorded or took a picture and had their fingers over the camera? Like, especially with the finger, like, coming down over it like this. Like, I genuinely can't understand the mechanics of how they're holding this, because I know I haven't done that since digital cameras. So was this picture video also taken from that same digital camera that they all took the picture at the front of the boat on? One of the first things that piqued my interest in this defamation letter was this Apple Maps picture. Now, you'll notice in the factual background portion, they just say that it arrived at 10:50 on Horn Island, but conveniently makes no mention of when it left, because right here in this picture, it says 10:50, but 10:22 is the leave time, which is a half an hour difference from the 9:56 departure time we've gotten. That's when I started hearing the little buzzing start to go off. Because personally, I don't recognize this version of Apple Maps, so I don't know if this was the actual route they did or if they just looked up another route and included it. Now, I'm going to go through this chronologically, so keep up. Because now, because of this letter, we know the exact time that the CTO call was made. And guess what, guys? It wasn't around 4 like they told us, but at 4:48. So that would be 17 minutes after the GPS said that they left Horn Island, which was at 4:31. You'll also notice at 4:48, they canceled the first call. Almost as if they looked up the number, pressed the link, it started to call, they freaked out, canceled it, then gave themselves a breath to calm down, and then they called. Now, that would mean that by the end of that call, it was almost 5 o'clock, almost 2 hours after they noticed the boat first sinking, 2 hours after they supposedly left Nolan on this island. Now, given how close this picture is to this cluster of boats and this very casual pose that seems to be going on, I think it's absolutely possible that Katie and or Lainey called this group of friends and was like, hey, can you pick us up? Because we know that by 5:34, Katie was on the boat taking Snapchat pictures and having fun with these people, which just so happens to coincide with the 5:52 traveled into Fort Bayou time from the GPS. The Triton then returning to the dock at 6:06 p.m., which would be about 4 minutes after this picture of the guy in the red swim trunks that I think was Carter going out with this group earlier that day. Because I also suspect that this is Carter right here, based on the build, the lighter strawberry hair in the front. And then I think right here is backwards cap Katie, because remember how I said in this picture, it looked like these two people were cuddling up with each other. And by process of elimination, it had to be one of the girls in the blue swimsuits and the red shorts guy. I also suspect that this is Brooks and Kendall right here. You'll notice that it looks like he's wearing a very thick gold chain right here, and Brooks seems to wear this thick gold chain all the time. Now, there's no way for me to positively confirm the identities of these people, but it is a dot that would neatly connect these two boats. Now, fast forwarding to Warren's phone call with the Coast Guard that lasted 21 minutes, starting at 11:13. So that would mean by the time he got off the phone with the Coast Guard, it would be about 11:35. While he's on the phone with the Coast Guard, he and Christine are texting each other. She asked Nolan where Warren's car was, and he says at Jax's house. She says, where is that? Can you send me the address from where you guys launched? He says, yes, ma'am. She said, when was the last time you guys saw him? 3 p.m. Now, this is not a picture of Jax's residence. He sent her the actual location of the boat launch, not from Jax's house where they all supposedly left that morning. Why would he send her a picture of where they put the boat in the water instead of Jax's house that she's literally specifically asking for? Then he sends her the pin of the house next door to Jax's house. Okay, so you've given the wrong address twice now, and then Warren texts her this. We launched the boats yesterday evening and left from here this morning. Because wait a fucking minute, y'all.
I actually stayed with Nolan that night at my buddy's house, and I woke up at my buddy's house, and we went to McDonald's, got food. Nolan was not with me, and I went and got breakfast. I had my buddy's boat hooked up to my truck, and well, first I ran to my house, then I went to McDonald's and came back, and the boat was already hooked up to my truck. My buddy Wyatt and I went, and with my buddies, and we went, filled the top of the boat off, loaded it down with ice, and just got everything ready. And Wyatt went and put his smaller boat in the water, which is the Palm Beach. He's 18-foot Palm Beach, and I drove the boat from Fort Bayou boat launch to my buddy's grandparents' house.
No wonder he was stuttering all over that story. It was a fucking lie. Because you trying to tell me that the day of all of this, he didn't remember when they put the boats in? He had a whole story about McDonald's and getting the ice and everything. But this means that they put all of those boats in the water the night before, and then everybody came over and had a sleepover party with 10, 15 people. Let's face it was probably just a regular party. Now, I know you've thought it. I've thought it. A lot of us aren't even sure that Nolan ended up at Horn Island at all, which would explain all of the weird Photoshoppy pictures that we're talking about. Now, if it wasn't for Javon and the coach, I know all of us would be like, did something happen the night before all of this? Because why lie? Why lie about what time you put the boats in the water? Now, after the 20-minute call with the Coast Guard, he then calls Christine back for about a minute. Then at 12:25, Warren gets a phone call from somebody from the Coast Guard that lasts only 2 minutes. So a whole hour has gone in between these calls. Now, mind you, listen to Trayston's side of this story because there's a bit of a time discrepancy on Trayston's end.
I didn't wake up again until a little after 11 o'clock. And I was my brother coming in the room being like, hey, we're trying to get a hold of you. You need to answer the phone. They look for Nolan. And I'm half awake, and I pick up the phone. And by this time, nobody had came to the house to grab anything. And Warren gets on the phone, and he's just like, hey, man, he's like, hey, have you talked to Nolan? Anything else? I was like, no, I haven't talked to him, man. He was with that girl last Monday. And he was like, okay. He was like, man, we can't get hold of him. We don't know where he's at. I was like, man, it's Nolan. He's probably just out somewhere with that girl. Like, get hold of the girl, you probably find Nolan. It's no big deal. And he was like, all right. He was like, but we're starting to freak out. We're getting on the phone with Coast Guard. I was like, okay. And at that time, he'd already talked to his mom, Nolan's mom. And he was getting on the phone with Coast Guard. And I'd called. I need to be specific about this. I did not call Warren's phone. I called another one of our buddies' phone, and it was on speakerphone. They were all together. I was talking on my other buddy's phone, talking to Warren. He was dialing Coast Guard because he hung up the phone. I was like, hey, this is Bob.
So Trayston says he gets the phone call a little after 11. Trayston's all like, oh, I don't know where she is. Even though he's friends with Katie. Like, he keeps calling her that girl, but they were friends. Katie and his sister ran in the same friend group. Mind you, he said that he had already talked to Christine at that point, but Warren told Christine that nobody could find Katie. So they didn't actually talk to Trayston or anybody else about this Katie girl before telling the mom that they couldn't find her. Then you'll notice in that story, he said that they were on the phone with the Coast Guard, and then he was like, oh, they're calling, I gotta go, hanging up. But we now know that that second call that I've gotta go, they're calling, happened at 12:30. So none of Trayston's story there is making sense. According to the very, very, very first MDR report, dispatch sent a call from Christine to Lieutenant Patrick Caron advising the dispatch of a caller reporting a missing male. So if Warren had called the Coast Guard by that point, spoke to them for 20 minutes, why didn't they reach out to MDMR? Let's not forget that the original statement from the Coast Guard was that they did not receive word of Wells' disappearance until 12:26 when the Jackson County Sheriff's Department reached out for assistance. And they later had to correct this to around 11 p.m., but they maintained that no formal assistance was requested at that time. Because it sounds to me like the Coast Guard wasn't actually notified until after Christine had talked to the Jackson County Sheriff's Department, to which then they called Warren to get more information, but that call only lasted 2 minutes. Then we find out about 30 minutes later, Christine and Warren talk again on the phone at 1 a.m. exactly. Now that is extremely significant because guess what is happening at 1 a.m.?
They come back to my house at around 1 o'clock in the morning.
Oh, so you mean the same time Christine is on the phone with Warren? Now, mind you, he is trying to claim that that is when they came back to his house, that they had already been there, that they got the phone and they went to Wyatt's house and all that stuff happened. Wyatt called 911. But now we know for sure that that is not true because Jax and his brother didn't call 911 until almost 3 a.m. And this is confirmed by Christine's text to Warren saying that Nolan's dad is at the house to pick up the key. It seems pretty obvious that Jax is confusing the two times, and the first time they showed up was at 1 a.m. They found out where Wyatt's boat was. They went to that house. Wyatt called 911 on them there, and then they came back just other at about 2:30, an hour and a half later, which lines up with the Jackson County Sheriff's Office talking to the friends who were on the boat with Nolan that day and reporting back at 1:38. And yet Odom says here that based on the information provided, they don't think Nolan's in any trouble. They don't need Coast Guard. They don't need to search for him. He's probably just chilling at some chick's house. They even say here that Warren agreed to talk to a deputy or investigator, but for some reason talk to them on another friend's phone. Something tells me they more or less had the attitude of, it's just our friend's mom being a little overprotective. I'm sure he's fine. Oh my God, I was going to talk about something else, but I think I just figured something out in real time. I'll save that for another video because I was going over the GPS again, right? Now, we all know that something has been fishy with these GPS coordinates for a while, especially considering that the GPS doesn't seem to stop moving for a very long time, going at a constant slowish speed for 2.5 miles. At no point do they ever mention the stopping, the calling the CTO, all of that stuff. It just, why isn't the GPS like telling us about that? Now, at about 7:45, the boat was taken to the grandparents' house. Now, for like Warren and Wyatt and everybody to come back together later on, it means that like Warren and Wyatt had to have been the ones to take it there, drop it off, and then come back in their vehicles. Meaning that the Triton would have had to have been docked on land and like in a parking spot. Would just be sitting there unattached to anything on a trailer, right? Yet at 9:32 the next morning, the GPS was powered on. Then it was clearly turned off again, and then it was powered on again at 9:51, and the vessel moved 52 feet. Why and how did it move 52 feet? And the Triton doesn't go back out because Warren was on the boat with his family, and Morgan, Wyatt, and Trayston were on the Palm Beach. And about what time did they go out there?
About 7 o'clock that morning, we had all decided that we were going to go out on the boat and go look for Nolan. Wyatt had already had his boat still in the water. We were on the water from 9:45 to 11:50.
Oh, you mean the exact time frame in which the GPS kept getting turned on, powered on, move 52 feet, powered on. Y'all, I think that these were the GPS coordinate points for the fucking Palm Beach. Because how would the Triton move 52 feet if it was sitting in a driveway at Wyatt's grandparents' house? Y'all remember, the Palm Beach left before the Triton did. They left Horn Island minutes before. Because again, according to the GPS, the boat was moving the entire time, and it was a good 17 minutes in between it leaving Horn Island and that CTO call. But you may be saying, Jay, the guy said that the Palm Beach was in the water already that morning. It couldn't have traveled to the grandparents' house. But remember, this is what Jack said when they said they wanted to go out and look for him that night.
Thinking about doing it that night.
Yes.
And why didn't you do it that night?
So we already called the Coast Guard at this point. We didn't have access to a boat that was already in the water, ready to go, other than one that I'm just not allowed to use at all. And I was still this close to taking it out.
So where was the Palm Beach, y'all? The Palm Beach was already in the water that morning. How come y'all didn't have a boat that was available for you to use? Because remember when they were like, oh, they're demanding the address of the boat, they were driving to the grandparents' house. Wyatt and Morgan were. And as it turns out, it's actually quite easy to transfer your GPS memory from one boat to another. In fact, it's so easy if you're doing it from one Garmin to another, there's literally an app you can do it on. Remember I told you literally Joseph McGrath worked for IT for the Ocean Marine Group, which is the group that is owned by Jerry Adkerson? Because my guess is they took the coordinates from the Palm Beach and put it into the Triton, but were so tunnel vision focused on the 4th of July that they didn't even think about the 5th. Because I've told y'all, those GPS plotters and everything, you have to do it manually. It's not like an automatic thing, and it's easily changeable. And we don't know what the Palm Beach was even equipped with. I mean, even the GPS seemed a little confused because there is a literal question mark in this report. Why was the GPS turned on 4 times in an hour? Especially here at 9:51, powered on question mark vessel moved 52 feet, and then it was turned on again 2 minutes later. So how did they move it 52 feet? Why did they move it 52 feet? Why did they turn off the GPS and then turn it back on? Almost like Morgan took the Palm Beach and dropped a bunch of people off. That would explain why there are so many data points that are not being accounted for in any of these boys' stories. Because notice, Morgan never tells us what he did after he left in the Palm Beach. Anyway, I'm exhausted. I have spent the last 5 hours recording this video. So if you like what I do and want to support my work, you know where the link is. And also, happy birthday to me. But no, seriously, it's my birthday this weekend. Yay!
Something about these power outages happening back to back is feeling very strange. As you guys know, Gary, Indiana has been dealing with massive power outages, but now adding to the list, we have Memphis in a list of other locations. And it feels like these conspiracy theories, or it's not feeling like conspiracy theories anymore, there being some sort of plan to take power away from us is starting to feel very real. And there's people in Gary, Indiana right now that are still waiting for their power to be cut on. Now, I did see reports where it was said that some people did actually get their power back, which I am so grateful for and I am so happy for. But now with Memphis going through a massive disruption right after, it just feels eerie. It just feels off, y'all. And my heart goes out to everybody going through this situation right now. And meanwhile, all of this is going on, we're getting constant threats of America going through an 18-month blackout. We keep hearing more and more threats of America going through an 18-month power outage because of the vulnerability of our power grid and AI data centers. AI data centers are consuming so much power to a point to where people are not getting alerted for storms and emergencies. They're creating even more of a demand when it comes to our power infrastructure. Why are we suddenly seeing so much conversations around the stability of our power grid? This is terrifying. At the same exact time, while Memphis and Gary, Indiana are experiencing power outages for prolonged periods of time. Because when you put it all together, it starts to look like a bigger picture is going on.
100,000 people in Memphis, Tennessee woke up today without power. 100,000 people, and I would be remiss to say that Memphis, Tennessee is a predominantly Black city. Yesterday, a storm with over 70-mile-an-hour winds hit the Memphis area, uprooting trees and knocking off branches. But you want to know what still has power in Memphis? I'll give you a hint. Elon Musk's data center. Now, my homegirl Amber, who lives in Memphis, Tennessee, put this on a map so you can see those 2 green circles is where the data center is located.
Off the clock right now, but look at how bad the storm was on North Parkway. Look, we got people right here trying to clear off the streets. I'm literally parked in the middle of the street because I can't go nowhere. I have my hazards on, but look at this. Look at the trees. Look at the debris here on North Parkway. Yeah, that's my car. I'm going to drive forward.
Yeah, they're opening line.
Okay, I guess they're opening up the lane right now, but I'm just showing, listen, I'm not even in I usually have a suit on. I'm usually in my journalism mode. I mean, I still am in my journalism mode, but you can see the fire department has just arrived here, and there's so much trees within the street. I'm going to just drive straight as he just gave me that green light, but I'm just giving you guys an idea as to how bad this thunderstorm was in Memphis, and more specifically, North Parkway. I mean, I'm literally parked right here in the street, but I guess I'll provide more updates. I'm off the clock right now.
We tell y'all that Babylon is falling. This is what we mean. So we know that Indiana was dealing with 9 days of shortages in power. Now it has been reported that most of Memphis is out of lights and gas and things of that nature. And this is since August the 23rd. Now, they're saying that 110,000 customers are without power. And this is literally coming from Memphis Light and Gas and Water Company. Now, they're saying that by Thursday, they're going to restore it, right? And that's just including everybody, should be restored by Thursday. What I'm hearing is that it's most of Memphis. But not only that, I'm hearing that Michigan is out because of these storms. There have been several storms that has been rocking the Midwest, okay? I'm hearing also Arkansas, some parts of Mississippi, and Western Tennessee. Now, this is interesting because the New York Times had came out with an article talking about the 17 states or 18 states or something like that concerning the power grid. Let me get to my notes real quick because the New York Post, they were talking about how vulnerable, I can't get this video taken down. Basically how vulnerable people's power grids is in a major country, let's just put it like that. And that this major country could result in like 18 months nationwide with blackouts. This is what experts are saying. And this was in the New York Post, mind you. And they're saying that this major, very popularity country is at a heightened risk, or is what the Bible, I believe, is declaring, all in 1 hour. But not only that, there are so many things that the Bible speaks of, like the Bible consistently talks about the end times and the famine and the catastrophic events that will happen to the world.
All right, y'all, so a quick update. We're almost at 24 hours now. In about 2 hours, we'll be 24 hours without power. I went to my mom's house, check on her. I thought her power was out. She wasn't answering the phone. But anyway, so we got the charge back up. So we got that going, charging my phone, and then we got the fan that is charging. It's one of those electrical fans that you just charge it up, and then you can put a water thing. It's water. So excuse the front porch. We was painting and stuff, and we haven't quite got done. But anyway, then we got Charlie out here. We got the grill going because we got a bunch of stuff in the freezer that needs to be cooked before it goes. So all the stuff that we got, and then of course Charlie wants to help with everything that going on, and we just kind of waiting for power to come back. It was 200 and something thousand last night. It's 85,000 now. So.
My name is Jarius Adams, and here's what you need to know. You remember when we talked about residents of Gary, Indiana going more than 2 weeks without power? Well, they still don't have power, but the same thing is happening in Memphis, Tennessee. A severe storm came through Memphis this weekend with winds up to 60 miles an hour. It impacted 130,000 Memphis light, gas, and water customers. And even this Sunday, there's 100,000 people that are still impacted without electricity. The Memphis Light, Gas, and Water says that this is a multi-day project, and they said that full restoration won't happen until probably this Thursday. That's more than a multi-day. That's almost a week. Can you imagine the things that are needed? Now, they said they're prioritizing treatment plants and hospitals and places that, you know, quote unquote, need it faster. But there are folks that are at home on ventilators and need breathing treatments and things that need to be plugged up to electricity. This is really dangerous. It's dangerous. And it's seeing it in so many predominantly Black communities. First Gary, Indiana, now Memphis, Tennessee, and it seems like they're ongoing. We have to have a conversation about emergency response or maybe preventative measures, because this can't continue to happen. And the question may be, are communities prepared for extreme weather events? Because losing power is not just an inconvenience. You're talking about refrigeration, medical equipment, the things people need, air conditioning, right? Memphis, Tennessee in the summertime, I'm from Mississippi. I know it is hot. Folks need air. And having to wait almost a week to have your electricity restored is kind of ridiculous, especially by a company that I'm sure if you're late paying your bill, your electricity will be cut off. So stay tuned.
I'm part of the 30% without power in Memphis right now. And with the situation in Gary, excuse my dog, it's a little warm, and Puerto Rico and Cuba, and with the government's penchant for testing things out on predominantly Black and brown neighborhoods, I don't know. I just find it interesting that one thunderstorm, can have us out of power for hours, but y'all got all this money and all this availability to put in flock cameras all across the city to surveil your constituents, and yet nobody asked for that. But what we have been asking for is infrastructure upgrades for probably longer than I've been alive. Still ain't got them. But y'all had all the solar panels and gold and copper and everything else to put these cameras in place that literally nobody asked for. And frankly, this whole bait and switch thing to where like you're switching from Flock to potentially like Motorola or something else, like bottom of the line is y'all had all this fucking money to put in cameras to surveil us, but it takes one thunderstorm for us to be out of power for hours on fucking end. You have money for National Guard, but you do not have money to upgrade the power grid.
Man, I hope all Memphis folks straight, homie. That storm last night, this motherfucker with power still out. You know what I'm saying? My shit was out 3 hours. 3-4 hours. I'm like, God damn, come on, my shit. Fuck. Hey, I don't know who praying over Memphis, but please stop. You know what I'm saying? I look out the window, nigga, the wind ain't even that fucking bad. I get on social media, nigga, it like a damn hurricane that went through Memphis. What the fuck is going on, bro? It be hot as a bitch down here in Memphis, and then we get that shit. Like, huh?
Good morning, y'all, or evening, should I say. I'm waking up from a umpteenth cat nap in the car. The power went out after the storm yesterday at about 5:45, and now it's like, 2:31 in the morning. And it's super warm in my house, and I just can't do it. I can't be in the house. I can't be hot like that. And now I have to think of something, because I have a fan that runs, like, it just charges up and it'll run, but it didn't run. Like, I don't know how long I thought it would. I don't know if I need to plug it or somewhere. But anyway, Memphis Light, Gas, and Water has been doing good. People's lights been coming on pretty quickly. But not mine. I'm so glad I don't have to go to work tomorrow. So tomorrow I will be sleeping the day away, other than washing a little bit, because I was washing when the power went out. And so, yeah, I'm just sitting out here. I feel excited. I found a bag of chips in my car.
So, y'all, our power is out. We've been on power for 3 hours now in Memphis, Tennessee. Let's see how this gonna go. Hold on. Y'all clearly see it's light outside, but it's dark up in here. So, y'all, it's currently day 2 without no electricity in Memphis, Tennessee. And they said we're gonna be out without power until this week, Thursday. So we get 4 more days to get in the dark.
And I mean, I don't see a lick of a damn. Where the fuck is the MLGW fucking trucks at? Bitch, I don't see a liquor truck out here. I mean that. Not a fucking lick of an MLG truck, an MLGW truck at fucking sight. What the fuck is really going on?
So it's Sunday morning in Memphis and we still have no power. So you gotta learn to improvise in survival mode. I have these little, catering things. So I'm gonna, use this to heat up the little breakfast that we had from yesterday for my baby. Because, honey, one thing about a millennium in this generation, we learn survival skills. So if all fails, if it's still not on this evening, I will be out there on the grill, grilling something to eat. And I just went grocery shopping the other day. So pray that everything comes back on beforehand. We won't lose anything. But yeah, this is.
See, and yesterday there was like this crazy out of nowhere storm. And like it looked like a hurricane outside. No warning, nothing. There were, so I'm from Memphis, Tennessee, and yesterday there was like this crazy out of nowhere storm. And like it looked like a hurricane outside. No warning, nothing. There were trees falling, limbs everywhere. A friend of mine, a tree fell into her kitchen. I saw someone's Bronco get crushed by a tree on TikTok. Saw that. I'm a conspiracy theorist or a realist. I don't know how to put this. Anyway, go look at what's happening in Gary, Indiana right now. There's a lady, she's been without power for 11 days. 11 days, y'all. Now, I don't know what they are trying to do to us. And I say they because the government, whatever. I just hope y'all are prepared for what's to come. Like, I don't mean to sound like, negative or whatever, but I just have this feeling like the weather has been so weird this whole summer. Super rainy, super hot right now. I saw this post that they're saying like in early September it's going to get down to like 55 degrees.
Oh no, this kind of feels like Twister weather. All of a sudden everything's kicking up. Holy shit. Oh my god. What the hell? Like, this is weird. I don't even know what's going on right now. Everybody's running. What is happening?
The storm came through quick and fast and then basically knocked out power everywhere. And I had no idea that it was this bad. There's trees down everywhere. There was flooding. All of this happened within a couple hours. And we were going to have an outdoor birthday party on the river. But it turned out to be an indoor party with the power out and candles. Wow. I hope everybody's okay. Memphis is strong. Look up Hurricane Elvis and you'll see what I'm talking about.
Now, if you didn't get a chance to check out my other videos on Gary, Indiana, I did 2 other ones that I will have linked below. NIPSCO said that full restoration could be taking place around August 25th. And again, I am so grateful that that is happening because Lord, I cannot imagine being in that situation. Really interested me in that situation is how human regard was put to the side for the sake of keeping the data centers running while this travesty was going on. Because the data centers had full power while the citizens didn't. Saturday, August 23rd, there was a powerful echo storm that ripped through Memphis and Shelby County with winds exceeding 70 miles per hour. And the storm ended up affecting 140,000 customers or citizens that were in that area. Although they have restored electricity to about 100,000 of those customers, we still have about 40,000 people still without power and may have to wait until Thursday of next week. We're watching another city go through a major power outage, and it's really sad. These companies have enough power to run these data centers and to run all these technological advancements, but not enough power for the citizens. And it's because our infrastructure is genuinely vulnerable, and they have not taken the time to update it, only for them to surveil us more and for them to do whatever their sinister plans are with these new technological advancements. These AI data centers consume so much power, and they're literally sucking the life out of anybody who lives near it, around it, and all of the water at the same time. Now you have this 18-month blackout warning that's been going viral online. I think that this is supposed to be a worst case scenario situation, but it almost feels like they're prepping us or warning us for what could potentially be our future. We need to stay prepared, y'all. Gary is showing us exactly how they'll handle other issues or crises in other places. The warnings just get clearer and clearer by the day. But I am praying for people who are currently going through any power outage situation, whether you're in Memphis, in Gary. Leave your comments below. Let us know if you guys are getting your power back. Thank you guys so much for your awesome comments where you guys are, sharing your tips and tricks to help others, and where a lot of you have been sharing the videos to bring awareness. I really, really do appreciate it, and I will make it my duty on this channel to keep sharing awareness on topics or things that are going on in the world that are not getting coverage. If you would like to see
I'm a lifelong resident of Gary, Indiana. This is unprecedented. We've never had this kind of damage.
Why does Gary always have to take the back seat?
Tens of thousands of residents in Gary and Northwest Indiana have been without power for over 12 days now. After a deadly derecho storm and flash floods hit earlier this month, knocking down trees and power lines, working class people in Gary and in whole sections of different states across the Midwest were left in total darkness. It is a national outrage that this story has not gotten more attention. And residents of Indiana are rightly outraged at the Northern Indiana Public Service Company, or NIPSCO, which has been hiking rates and raking in near record profits, all while failing to properly maintain its power infrastructure and to prepare for storms like this. And the stories that I've been seeing and hearing from working people in Gary, Indiana are so strikingly and unbearably similar to the stories that I'm seeing and hearing from working people in Cuba, who are being strangled right now by the oil blockade imposed by our own government. It is all, frankly, devastating and horrifying, and it is unacceptable. So I spoke with community leaders from Gary, Indiana, about what is happening right now and what you can do to help.
What I see going on and what I feel went on, this is unprecedented. We've never had this kind of damage from the derecho tornado that hit, the land-based tornado that hit. For my prospect, there are certainly things that could have been done to prepare ourselves for this kind of weather event that we felt was coming. We've been fearing that for 10 years because we knew at some point, as the weather changed, the weather events were going to get worse and worse. And we've been speaking about this for years, probably to deaf ears. But some people pay attention, the environmental people pay attention, but the people that need to pay attention and make some changes could have previously done so had they listened. I do think some of this could have been possibly avoided had NIPSCO over the years maintained it and kept up with what was going on, cutting down the trees that need to be cut down and maintaining the wires and the base. My power's not on after 11 or 12 days. And not everybody can afford generators and We have senior buildings where today our church for 2 days has been passing out water and household supplies and all these kind of things like that for people that are coming down. Yesterday we did over 1,000 people. That's why we're doing everything we did. Yesterday was 12 hours. Today I've been out here 10 hours doing giveaways and sending them to seniors apartments. So because all of us are coming together here, churches, faith-based organizations, people are coming together. That's what's made everything better. That's why we maintaining our positive spirit, because people are coming together and moving together and working together.
I'm framing this this way as kind of a Katrina 2.0. Gary and Northwest Indiana, from my vantage point, are experiencing a Katrina moment. And as we know, the hurricane that hit Katrina in 2005, yeah, it did massive destruction. But what it really did, in addition to that, was pull the covers off of, as I think Gleneva was saying, pull the covers off of the lack of maintenance in New Orleans for the levees. As the levees broke, it showed that in the working people's area of Black, brown, and poor whites, what they had been dealing with all along. And so it pulled the covers off it. The same thing I see happening here in Gary, Indiana, and Northwest Indiana. You know, my church is still without power. People have been sitting in hot homes and apartments for 11 days now. And when the first estimates of restoration came out, Gary wasn't on the list. Now, this is in conjunction with a tornado that came through in June that did massive destruction. And a lot of the same things were happening, you know, that we're experiencing now. Why does Gary always have to take the back seat for other areas, but people without food and without, you know, just the ability to have decency and hygiene? Some people are able to have generators. Everybody's not able to have generators. And those that have generators have spent close to a fortune in getting gas for it in 11 days, right? And so what compensation, some of the questions are, what compensation will NIPSCO offer? Here's another question I'm getting from my congregation. So for 11 days, there's been no power. Why do we got to pay a bill? Why isn't a moratorium on paying a bill for the next month or two, right? Because the objective in a transaction is that if I pay my money, then I'm going to get the goods or the service in return. Now, if I pay my money and I don't get those goods and services, then I'm expecting that there's going to be some compensation, you know, that will help, you know, reduce the difficulty that I've been placed in because you don't have the ability to provide what I'm paying for. And so there's mobilization among people, grassroots organizations, everyday people, residents, you know, helping their neighbors get through, cutting down trees, you know, so that they can get it off of people's cars and help folk, you know, get the trees off their houses as much as possible, getting the streets clear as much as possible. You know, of course, you know, folk do this in crisis, you know, because of their resiliency and their strength and their love for living and humanity. But the fact of the matter is, we shouldn't have to bear this burden like this, right? We shouldn't have to bear the neglect that has happened. It's not just NIPSCO, you know, it is broader than that. And the line workers for NIPSCO, the people that are going out, getting on the poles and all of that, these people are working hard. They're working, you know, so it's not about them. It's about the institution itself, right? Because what we're talking about is institutional. We got to keep pushing so that Gary can get the attention and the resources and the work that needs to be done so that, again, there's going to be another storm. It could be another storm in another few days. right? We are in this season of storms. Now, if things go the way they have been going, we're going to do this again. And this is something we can't do. You know, we got to, it shows again, the covers off that, you know, there's some stuff that needs to be done to strengthen. So one of the executives, you know, because the question was asked, well, how come the wires, the lines are not underground? There are places in Northwest Indiana where the lines are underground. They experience less, you know, outages than other places where the wires are on top of the ground. Well, the executive said it costs 10 times more to do that than to do what, you know, what they're doing right now. I understand that. But NIPSCO is recording record profits.
One in which Africa provides ancestral identity while the diaspora provides financial resources. That would be an impoverished interpretation. The reconnection of the African family must never become a marketplace in which belonging is sold. Traditional titles must not become commercial rewards. Historical claims must not be invented to satisfy emotional expectations. And sacred institutions should not be trivialized for tourism or spectacle.
Okay, family, you know, the first thing we got to talk about, we have to talk about the Ashanti king who went to the HBCUs. Did y'all see that? These Ghana, a lot of people thought they were diplomats, but they're not. These were some tribal, what do you call them? Tribal chiefs. So you have this, the king of the Ashanti people of Ghana, Tumfuo Ose Tutu II. So he was up at, where'd they go? They went to Howard. They went up to Howard and they had on their, you know, their traditional Ashanti garb and all that stuff. You had some of the Boule bootlicks connected to that event. You had some Arolis people. Greg Carr, he was a part of that event, and Greg Carr is always saying greasy stuff about our lineage here, but he's a Democrat shield. So you had this Ashanti king coming over, and the centerpiece of the event was a royal guest lecture. So he was talking about traditional African governance and leadership and preserving African culture and heritage, the relationship between Ghana, Africa, and the global African diaspora. He was talking about leadership and advancement of people of African descent. So it's one of these Pan-African organizations that's kind of funding this. Did this guy ask me what's my source? My source of what? I'm just telling you what happened today. This is what they were talking about. This is what they were talking about. So he's going to be going to different schools and different venues from what I understand. In a couple of days, I think they're going to go to Bowie State University. So they're going to the HBCUs with this stuff. And they've been talking about investments and all that stuff. Now, a lot of people feel a certain way about it. A lot of people are feeling a certain way about it. A lot of people are not feeling it. All right? A lot of people are not feeling it. And we should question what's going on with this thing. What makes people feel skeptical is the blending of African ancestry and diaspora unity, royalty, HBCUs, and money. So Ghana's talking like, they want us to invest over there. And Ghana's been really campaigning like this for the last year. So it sounds like a business proposition, but they're trying to wrap it up in emotional language of connecting to the motherland, and folks ain't really buying that right now. And they're going through the HBCUs, and that's very important. They know that our HBCUs are historically and also spiritually significant. The HBCUs, it holds a lot of our spiritual energy. Our HBCUs are basically living museums because they've been around so long. So they have a lot of cultural significance with us. So we got to understand the play. And they're trying to go to the HBCUs to make it seem like it's more of a cultural, brotherly outreach other than some type of business scheme that they got cooked up. Because this is what it really looks like. They got like a little business hustle they got going on, and they're trying to pull at our heartstrings. The HBCUs were around before their countries were formed. And the Ghanaian government, they're trying to get money from us to invest in business ventures over there. Like a few weeks ago, the governor of the Bank of Ghana, they were publicly urging banks to create products specifically designed to move diaspora remittances into savings and bonds and investments over there. So we got to understand there's an economic strategy here, and they try to get us to invest in land and all that. But here's the thing, man, people are rightfully so calling out some of the land laws over there and some of the scams and the finesse that goes on over there. There's a lot of finessing that goes on with us because a lot of folks ain't really rocking with them like that. So they try to get us to go over there and bring bread because they done cut off that USAID money. Trump done cut that off. And now it's, hey, brother, hey, brother. But understand all that getting land over there, you better understand the land laws, family. You better look at the fine print. Go look at Ghana's constitution. Look at Article 266 of their constitution. Their own constitution says a non-Ghanaian citizen cannot own a freehold interest in land in Ghana. That's why they don't really give you citizenship when you go over there, family. Do you know that? They don't really give you citizenship. They give you a right to abode. Watch the words. Watch the words, family. Yeah, they're not really letting you be a citizen. You're having the right to abode. Look up those words. They play these word games. And understand, a non-citizen, basically, you can get a leasehold. You have to lease the land from the tribe over there, from whatever tribe. And it can't exceed 50 years at one time. You see? And they said any attempted freehold conveyance of land to a non-citizen is legally void. So they can just come take your shit. And we've seen that. I've seen videos where people get land over there and they done ran some kind of finesse on them. And then people are just coming in, just random people just come in, taking people's furniture and belongings. And the police are just sitting there letting it happen. We got to tell that, we just got to tell the truth about some of the shit that happens over there, man. Yeah. We should just tell the truth. And we're not going to allow ancestry to become some kind of economic pressure tactic. Don't let nobody fool you. We ain't got no ancestral obligation requiring us to invest in no damn Ghana. All right? Now, there's some people, if that's what you want to do, that's what you want to do. You got you a 90-day fiance over there, knock yourself out. But yeah, they're not going to play this game where they're going to try to emotionally pressure us to do that, especially with the Ashanti King And the Ashanti tribe, come on, not with the Ashanti king. Do we really want to go there? I go there in a minute, but listen, this is also, it looks like some DNC shit that they're promoting. The Democrats are promoting this stuff. The DNC really needs a Pan-African distraction strategy, because right now the foundational Black American delineation movement has everybody in the damn chokehold. Do you understand that? This delineation is sweeping the nation, ladies and gentlemen. This renaissance that we're having, we are in the middle of a foundational Black American renaissance, and the DNC, they know they're in trouble if they don't come to the table with what we're telling them we want. They know this. This is why they send their operatives to try to attack and undermine and discredit the lineage and the renaissance, and you can't do that. It's too late. We're past that stage. We're already solidified. So the Democrats, they got a massive problem. Too many foundational Black Americans are waking up and are refusing to vote for nothing. We're demanding very specific lineage-based tangibles and reparations. The DNC, they know they cannot deliver empty rhetoric no more. You understand? They're getting booed off the stage when they come talking all that. Well, we all gonna get together, Black and brown. The minute they start saying that, everybody's like, oh, then their polling numbers go right in the tank. The minute they send their punks out here, the booty short wearing niggas, and start talking all of that sassy rhetoric to shame us, their polling numbers go down. We ain't trying to hear punks. We ain't trying to hear a Black-Brown coalition. We ain't trying to hear a minority coalition. We're not trying to hear none of that. Where's the tangibles? Where's the bread? Where's the money? Where's the munyan? We're not playing, and they know that. And now when they show up doing these DNC rallies and they're campaigning, too many foundational Black Americans are pulling up on them. They don't know where they're going to get pulled up on. Everywhere they go, somebody's popping up in the audience. Hey, yeah, where's those tangibles for foundational Black Americans? They can't escape it. All right? So what's their strategy? They're going to try to really deploy that Pan-African narrative so they can pivot the conversation away from domestic tangibles and then try to redirect our attention overseas. And this whole thing, we're trying to promote political and economic salvation around investing in Africa and connecting with a foreign monarch. No, that's them trying to create a distraction so they don't have to answer for the resources owed to us right here. You see? And the people that they got clicked in this event, again, the Rollins people, the DNC flunkies, all of them, these Black political gatekeepers, these institutional Pan-Africans, they're co-signing it. And these the same people who tell us, foundational Black Americans, that reparations are too complicated, we're too divisive if we look out for ourselves. There's no money in the budget for the Black neighborhoods, but they'll have a gazillion dollars for illegals who come over here overnight. So we're not buying none of that stuff. We ain't buying it at all. And like I said, they're going to these HBCUs, they're going to Howard, Bowie State, all that. The DNC, they understand optics. They know that HBCUs, that's the crown jewel of foundational Black American history and political organizing. They know how important the HBCUs are in our culture. So by staging these little Pan-African spectacles at our most sacred institutions, the DNC, they're trying to merge their political agenda with the legacy of Black American scholarship. See, they're trying to psychologically manipulate some of the young Black college students into adopting this globalist identity, hoping that that's going to take their focus off the lineage-based justice that we need right here. And again, they would love to erase our specific lineage, ladies and gentlemen. When people talk about destiny swap, that's exactly what it is. They want to erase us and have other people replace us who don't have the same energy and the same history. You see? that whole Millennium Excellent Week is what they're calling this event. Is built on the whole concept of this global Black diaspora. And that's a favored tactic of the Democrat establishment. If they can convince everybody that all Black people globally share the same political and economic struggle, they can basically completely erase the specific unique debt owed to the descendants of freedmen. That's us. So when the DNC, they push this whole Pan-African umbrella, that they're actively attempting to basically dissolve our foundational Black American lineage into a broader global category. You see? And then that gives the government a convenient excuse to basically avoid paying specific reparations. That's why Ghana keeps trying to get in front of it. It's like a little janky deal they got going on, and we ain't buying it. I'm telling you, we are not buying this stuff. We're not buying it. Especially not with the damn Ashantis. You're going to send the king of the Ashanti tribe? Do you know their get down? Oh, Dalton family, you better study on the Ashanti tribe. They try to, my brothers, the white man took my brothers, we're victims. The Ashanti Empire were not standing helplessly on the coast of Africa while Europeans were just hopping out of boats, kidnapping everybody. They were the major suppliers of captives. Those Ashanti, they built an enormous military state starting around the early 1700s. And they had repeated warfare against the neighboring people. They were capturing people left and right. The vast majority of the enslaved people in that region were accumulated by the Ashanti. And people were saying they had damn near 7,000 newly enslaved people per year that the Ashanti were capturing and selling. They were the major suppliers of enslaved people. You see, and warfare itself became an enormous mechanism for creating enslaved people. You see? So they were making money hand over fist doing that. And they were consciously fighting to gain more direct access to the European slave markets on the coast. Yeah. See, the Fanti states stood between the inland Ashanti Empire and European coastal forts, and they acted and functioned as commercial middlemen. So between 1807 and 1860, the Ashanti, they launched a whole bunch of campaigns that really broke a lot of those barriers and extended that whole Ashanti power towards the coast. You see? And the Elmina Castle was very pivotal because the Ashanti's relationship with that Elmina Castle and their relationship with the Dutch, that gave them a direct commercial corridor to Europeans. You see? The Ashantis, they had a business deal with the Dutch. And by the 18th century, Elmina, that was one of the richest coastal trading centers over there. And the Ashanti had direct access. They were really controlling that over there. So the Dutch, they were trading European manufactured goods like firearms and other commodities that they were trading with the Ashanti. The Ashanti thought they had it made. They had a good deal with them. They had a good deal with them. It wasn't like they were being tricked. Those Dutch Ashanti agreements, these were not Europeans imposing themselves on unwilling African kingdoms. This was a diplomatic commercial relationship. They had something called the Elmina Note, and that authorized payments of 2 ounces of gold per month to the Ashanti tribe. You see? And the Dutch, they saw these payments, that was rent. They were paying the Ashantis rent to use the Elmina Castle over there. And then the Ashanti kings around 1817, they started making these little deals and treaties with the British. You see, they were just making deals with all these Europeans until the Europeans turned on them. Yeah. And then in like 1837, another Ashanti king, they made another little written deal with the Dutch, which the Ashanti, they were supposed to deliver like 1,000 military recruits And they were getting paid big time. And if they didn't get paid, they would check them on not getting paid. They would check the Europeans. And when Britain started taking over some of those areas over there, the Ashanti, they didn't want to stop supplying enslaved people. When the British said, okay, we're not going to get slaves anymore. We're not transporting slaves anymore. You know, that we got other things going on. We got our colonies built up. We're already making money from our colonies. We got self-sustaining colonies. We got more than enough people in our colonies all over the world. So we don't really need to ship people across the ocean, and we don't and pay all that insurance money. And we don't need to do that no more. So we're going to abolish slavery, because remember, they didn't abolish slavery. Well, the slave trade. Let me say it like that. The slave trade, the transatlantic slave trade. That's what they abolished. It wasn't out of no moral thing. They were already set up in their colonies, and the colonies were already, at this point, like a turnkey operation. It was fueling itself. So they didn't have to spend all of that extra money and waste all them lives shipping people thousands of miles across the ocean. So they said, we're not going to do that. But the Ashanti was like, come on, I got more Negroes. I got way more. They didn't want to stop. Those Ashantis were the main ones who didn't want to stop. Yeah. And the Ashantis, basically, they gradually ended the slavery under military defeat. And when the British basically took their asses over and said, okay, don't worry about capturing nobody, because now I done captured your ass. Now get on over there and start learning English. Teach everybody English, and we're going to start writing boundaries where y'all going to live. And this tribe is going to go over here. You're going to be a new tribe. So they got finessed. So them coming around and acting like they're innocent allies, dude, you better know their history. And they're going to send the Ashanti king? Hell no. And for a long time, we've made a lot of excuses for the little janky stuff that they do. Yeah, they're still under British rule. Yeah, they're still under British rule, to be honest. So they're trying to spin the block and try to get us on board because shit is down bad for them. So they need to get us on board. See, family, we as foundational Black Americans, we're the only ones who really collectively, we got our hands clean morally. We never made no damn deal with none of these white supremacists. That's the great thing about us, ladies and gentlemen. That's why everybody has to come to us for legitimacy. Notice that anytime somebody want to get something going on politically or socially or culturally, they got to lock in with us. They got to go to our HBCUs. They got to go down to Selma. You got to go down to Birmingham. You got to go down to Montgomery. You got to indulge in our cultural institutions in order to get some of our cultural legitimacy rubbing off on you. You understand? We ain't never made no deals with these people. We ain't never made no surrender deal, none of that stuff. And we're some of the only few people who can say that. So that's phenomenal. But let me get the family in here. Let's see what's on your mind. Now, I saw the one dude, JB, whatever your name is. You in here, Jay? He said it was a commercial relationship. Yeah, right. Yeah, they say that. Yo, JB, where you at? You were in here asking to get up earlier. Where are you, JB? Something like that. You had all of those foreign flags on your thing, Mr. JB. Hop on in here, sir. Hop on in here, JB, if you're still in here. All right. Let's get all in royalties. I get you in all in royalties. Let me get you in. All right. All in. What's up, all in? Well, first let me get FBAK. FBAK?
Yes, sir.
What's up, man? How are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm good, brother. Now, where you located, man?
Louisiana, New Orleans.
All right. You kind of got an accent. Where's your family from?
Kenya.
Oh, okay. There you go. So how you a foundational Kenyan? How's that work?
Yes, foundational Black Kenyan.
You can't be a foundational Kenyan. It don't work like that. You can't be a foundational. You can't be a foundational immigrant. Yeah, I saw a Jamaican lady talking about she came here from Jamaica, and she's a foundational Jamaican. Some bullshit. I mean, come on, y'all, stop it. Y'all just be saying shit. But anyway, what's on your mind, Mr. Kenyon?
I was just listening to some of the things you were saying, and hopefully you will allow me. The first thing is, we don't actually have to come to you to get legitimacy. When you take Ilhan Omar, most of her voters were white and Somalis. When you take someone like Mandani, most of his voters are from New York.
Slow down. Let's slow down. I don't want to cut y'all, but let's unpack that. Look at the Somalis now. Now that we've delineated, they done cut off TPS for Somalis. They done got them caught up in all types of scams. Dozens of them are getting arrested. It's down bad. Ilhan Omar is running around here talking about, look at how they doing the black woman. She done stopped all that Somali talk. You understand? They run. Those Somalis ran their ass down to Selma. Did you see them running down to the Edmund Pettus Bridge? Did you see that?
No, I did not see that.
Okay, yeah, look that up, sir. Look that up. The Minnesota Somalis, it was so bad for them, they had to take their ass down there to my family's homeland. So yeah, they do need our legitimacy, sir. But go ahead.
Yes.
I just needed to correct you. Because you don't know. You obviously don't know. So let's go.
Yeah, I mean, when you talk about the people for TPUSA and all the stuff, I think TPS, the people that voted for her are legal American citizens, not the people that have been deported. These people.
Well, yeah, they were voting for her.
So these are American citizens that happen.
Okay. They were voting for her because we were at the time on this big black unity thing. We all in this together and all that. So they thought, okay, we co-sign her, so she must be legit. And remember, Ilhan Omar used to follow me on Twitter. She used to follow me. So a lot of the people in the dominant society thought, well, if black Americans are co-signing them, they must be good. But go ahead.
I do remember, for example, when Obama was running for president, and a lot of what you call foundational black Americans were actually supporting Hillary Clinton because she was the wife of the first black president, according to them.
Really?
And it's only after he won, that's what they were saying. It's only after, if I may finish, it's only after he won in Utah and Iowa, and they saw that white people would vote for him. That's when all these foundational black Americans started voting for this Kenyan, or the son of a Kenyan and a Kansas, and a woman from Kansas. The only reason that the black community started voting for him is because they saw white people accepted it.
Who told you that? No, that's not what that is.
I was there.
But you're not of the culture? No.
For me, 2008, I was there. I was following the like everyone else in the world. And like everyone else here, I was following
but you're not a foundational black American. So how are you going to speak for us and then say some shit that...
I don't speak for you. I just told you
are trying to speak for us, because we ain't never said that. We ain't never said, oh, damn, white people like him, so we're going to support him. No, we never said that. He was talking a good game.
The numbers were speaking. No,
okay, sir.
I'll let you speak, and then...
you're not going to sit here and lie on us. You're not going to lie. You've already got caught in a couple of lies, sir. God, that was ticklish chapter. Lord. You get to lying and giggling. Damn.
If I may finish my sentence, if you allow me.
But I don't want you to just sit here lying, sir. I'm not going to give you a platform.
But you have plenty.
But this is what y'all do. Y'all just like to just say a bunch of shit that ain't true, and then you just want a platform to put it out there. That's not true, sir. What made folks listen?
You control this panel.
Stop talking.
You're a very dominant. You see, now you start that thing you guys like to do.
Okay, but you're not going to tether babble.
I don't know what that means.
That means what you're doing. You're just running your mouth saying shit.
It's just now you're becoming disrespectful, so that I react.
Because you talking over me.
Trying to deflect the conversation.
Because you keep lying. Is that respectful? You telling the truth?
You'll have to prove it. You'll have to prove it.
Yeah, if you just sit
that I'm
here
lying.
lying, sir, that's not respectful.
You
and
keep
just
saying
talking
it,
over
but
me.
that's not really a thing. So can we go
Yeah,
back to the conversation or no?
but no, but every time you lie,
No, you
we're
don't
going
want
to
to
have
go.
to stop.
You just want to go to insults.
No, because you're insulting us by lying, sir. You don't
No, I did
have
not
respect
insult.
for us.
I no, it's not a lie. It's facts.
You are lying,
Up until
sir.
he won,
I've had to correct you
until he
several
won
times.
Iowa
No,
and
it's not.
Utah, black
That's not
people were
true,
behind Hillary Clinton. Basta.
sir.
That is a
Sir.
fact.
Well,
That is a fact.
We got entered to stop. Okay,
You
this chicken
got
is
on the
tethered.
Obama bandwagon only after white people got on him. After
Not
Utah,
true.
go check the numbers.
I know
Check
the numbers, sir. I know the
Check
numbers.
the numbers. You don't know the
I
numbers.
voted
You're
for
lying
Obama.
now.
I
You are the
voted
one
for
lying
Obama.
now. You're
Okay.
the one lying now.
Okay.
How did you?
Okay. Let me mute you because you're just talking just to be talking.
You lied. I caught you in a lie.
You didn't catch
Catch
me,
you in
sir. You're just talking over me.
Tariq
We're not gonna do
Nasheed.
that.
Stop lying, Tariq Nasheed.
Okay, Dudu Tunde, calm down. And are you really from Kenya? Because
Trina, Latrina,
that's not a Kenyan accent. Where are you
Laquita
really
Nasheed.
from?
Stop lying.
Are Dudu Titty Musty?
You're crashing. Laquisha Nasheed. Laquisha.
Titty Musty. Are you really Somali?
Laquisha.
Because you sound Somali. This doesn't sound like a Kenyan accent.
Calm down, Latrina.
He definitely not Kenyan.
Yeah, this ain't a Kenyan. This is an East African.
I think you are extremely uncomfortable.
I can hear your peppercorn rubbing up
Anyways,
against the
ladies
phone.
and gentlemen, this is what happened.
Okay, this is what happens when you got a
There are
ticklish
Somalis in
lying
Kenya.
tether. The what?
Somalis in Kenya.
Yeah, you're Somali, aren't you?
No, I'm not. I'm actually a Luo, but there are Somalis in Kenya. You don't know that.
What tribe are you with?
I'm a Luo.
Ain't that like East Indian kind of?
You see, you don't even know, brother, and you're here talking to 990 people, and it's like the blind leading the blind, bro.
Ain't nobody leading anything, sir. But you're such a lying tether.
Ashanti, you just named.
You're such a lying tether. I don't know what you're lying about, sir.
Makaho
I
tribe.
don't
You
think
know what I
you're
mean?
Kenyan. I don't even think you're Kenyan.
Don't listen to this guy.
Again, you sound like an East
Behind
African
every
Somali.
FBA, there is a.
You're just saying shit. All right.
You deflected the
Sir, I'm not deflecting. You're just being a time wasting.
the conversation from something interesting to insult.
You came up here lying, talking about we didn't like Obama until white people
dismantled you.
Okay, you didn't do anything, sir. You dismantled
and
hunger.
Destroyed, my man.
You dismantled a bowl of Red
This
Cross.
is my first encounter with you.
Okay, god damn. Okay, you're just being a talkative tether. Okay, thank you. You're just saying shit for attention.
Flex.
What's up, brother? How you doing, all in?
I'm doing all right, and yourself. Peace and blessings to you.
Hey, man, how you doing, brother?
I'm blessed, bro. I want to ask you, what do you think about sister Kwanzaa Jones and her Puerto Rican husband bought the San Diego Padres for $3.9 billion?
Yeah, that's cool. You know, shout out to her, shout out to him.
You see how all the white tea supremacists hating on the sister?
Oh yeah, because she's FBA. She's an FBA sister. Yeah, they don't like that. And hey, I'm supporting her fully. I want her to rub it in everybody's faces. I want her to do her thing, and I like it. She's from out here in LA, from what I understand too. Thank you, sir. So shout out to that sister. That's an FBA sister. I take my hat off to her. All right. But yeah, this dude, this Somali tether who's pretending to be Kenyan. Let me tell you, you know when somebody's full of shit when they say something and they just keep talking so that you can't give an answer. Yeah, that's when you know somebody's full of shit. When they tell a lie and when you're correct, because he already told a couple of them that I had to correct. So they'll say something, and then when it's time to correct them, they just keep talking. See, I got you, nigga. I told you, I got you. Look at you, I got you. Now you just, okay, now you're trying to troll your way out of it. We didn't sit up here, we're going to support Obama because white people liked him. Obama, when he was at that convention up there in Chicago, I forgot what it was, but when he did a phenomenal speech, he did a speech and we're like, oh shit, that's fly. Okay, he's talking a good game. Wasn't because white people liked him, kind of shit, no. You know, he did that speech up there in Chicago, and, you know, that brought him into the national lexicon. And then we started rocking with him. We're like, okay, yeah, he's talking a good game. Then he went out, he came out there with Michelle Obama. We're like, oh, he got his sister. Okay, all right, we're going to pop our collar to him. We're going to get behind him. Yeah, we support, right. Brother McCall hit it right on the money. We were rocking with Obama because of Michelle, to be honest, because, yeah, he was a tether. But we saw him with Michelle, who had FBA lineage. We're like, okay, he must be all right. He must be all right. And then Oprah and then a lot of black celebrities started to get behind him, and then we started getting behind him. It wasn't because of the white people. That's horse crap. Good Lord. I'm not going to let no tether sit here and try to rewrite history. That's the problem. Tether's always trying to tell us what we're doing. You're not even of our lineage. You don't have discussions with us in our households. You're not of our culture. You can only project your colonized mindset. You co-sign shit because of what white people do, not us. You're projecting your mindset. And he sat up here talking about how they don't need us for legitimacy and gonna bring up the Somalis in Minnesota. Are you insane? The minute we stopped supporting them, the shit went downhill for them. The minute we delineated, it went downhill for everybody. The block got hot for all of them, and they started running their ass down to Selma. The hell are you talking about? Those are the main ones who need our legitimacy. Man. Oh, yeah, they love white people. They love projecting. Boy, they love projecting. But yeah, we made a mistake supporting Obama because, yeah, we didn't know he was going to be a neglectful tether. But, you know, we live and we learn. We're here now. Better late than never. Yeah, them Somalis were the main ones down there in Alabama with them foreheads out there. We shall overcome. We shall overcome. Shut up. Get the hell out of here. Who is this Supreme Captain? Who? Supreme Captain? Who's ducking who, sir? What are you talking about? Supreme Captain? I don't know. Who am I ducking you? I don't know who you are. Not you haven't made a request, Supreme Captain. All right, Supreme Captain, make a request if you want to talk. If you think I'm ducking you, hop on, Supreme Captain. Make a request to get on. I don't know what kind of account you have, and I can't add you. Yeah, Ilan Omar is running around here talking about she black. All of a sudden. What's up, AA? Yo, A, what's up, brother? Let me get you out of here. All right, let me get him out of here. All right, what's up, Nikki the God? I see you. Let me see. I'm going to get a bunch of random people on here. Let me get Cliff. Let's get Mark Anthony. Mark Anthony, hop on.
Kofu, follow me.